Welcome back to the Circuit Playoffs, and if you're just joining us, boy, did you pick a good time. We are in the Europe Finals here for the Circuit Playoffs. It's Belt Slap up against Snake Pit. It's also Bench and Lermy here on the desk. And Lermy, this is going to be a good one. Now, I know that people are a bit worried because Belt Slap did just get through 2-0 and Snake Pit mere moments ago, right? Just the last time they faced up against each other. But perhaps Snake Pit can come in and show us something different here. Really quick is the schedule that we already had. Poppies lost to Snake Pit earlier in the semis. Poppies were eliminated and Snake Pit earned their trip here to the finals. We got plenty of North American action coming up later, so make sure you stick around. Here's exactly what their bracket looked like. Belt Slap 2-0'd Snake Pit earlier. I think that was yesterday when they won that set. So now Snake Pit have the tough task of trying to find some kind of way already with a one-game advantage going to Belt Slap to get a different result.
Yeah, you're totally right, Finch. This is moderately concerning here for Snake Pit, but perhaps they're going to take this dub up against the Poppies as the morale boost that they really needed to be able to find something different here. And also, it just helps to have the information from the games from yesterday. Now they know kind of what Belt Slap are up to, and Snake Pit could definitely have gone back to the drawing board to pick up something different this time.
And I think Snake Pit showed us, at least in the set that we just saw when they took care of the Poppies, that if you give them too many strong picks, they will run over you. We saw the Emoja played well by Dazer, the Amaterasu played well by Terrorem, Spudio popping off on the Rob. I think if Belt Slap took any notes, there was no world where Spudio was allowed to take that pick again. I think whatever it is that Snake Pit tried to do, you want to try and do it through Spudio in particular, because he's on fire right now.
Absolutely. His snipes were on point, so I think definitely you've got to take away that ROM, but it's hard to say for sure because there are so many talented players on both sides of this matchup. I think that when it comes down to it, picks and bans are really going to be a huge indicator of which side's going to have the advantage here.
That's a good point, and I think for Belt Slap in particular, these picks and bans are going to be critical because I think that just performance-wise, at least this weekend, there's a big gap between where Johnny and where Worst Turtle are and what we've seen from them. So if I'm Johnny, if I'm Belt Slap, I'm getting this man whatever it is that he wants to take Worst Turtle to school today, because that's how we win this set, is through that big disparity there in the jungle. And the thing is, it's not just in that role here for Belt Slap. Trinkstank, obviously a world-class support. They've got Arkle, also a world-class hunter. This squad is stacked from the top to the bottom in terms of talent.
Absolutely, but like you said, Johnny is kind of the backbone of this squad. He gets to play all these hyper carries, literally whatever he wants, as you said, and pops off consistently, but that's not to say that any of these other members have yet to have their moments. We've seen Julio in particular have many bans up against him as well, and especially that tier, man. You cannot let him have tier.
And you're not going to get away with letting Morrigan through up against Zeros either. That guy I consider the Morrigan specialist, and that's between SML and SPL. He can elevate that pick to new heights, understands how to get the maximum value out of the mage form and the transformations as well. Certainly an all-around player, even around or not with that Morrigan. So let's go ahead and get into those picks and bans then. Again, this is game number 2. Already, Belt Slap come in with that one-game advantage because they are the upper bracket. They made their way all the way through it without having lost a game. So this is game 2. Snake Pit already got to start from the back foot.
Yeah, they are going to have a little bit tougher time in this draft, though, because as you noted, Snake Pit got the draft of dreams in the last setup up against the Poppies. They had, what, Persephone, Amaterasu, Yamoja, all in the same draft? That doesn't happen, typically, and especially now up against Belt Slap. Persephone, off the table immediately. Angry does not get to play that this set.
No, Belt Slap are not going to be caught sleeping at the wheel. And as you already pointed out, Lermy, great bit of analysis from you, is that Julio does end up absorbing a lot of bans here for Belt Slap. That's exactly what this tier is. Julio and tier are one of those god player combinations that I think everyone is aware of at this point. So great work by Snake Pit to ban it away. But Belt Slap are sticking at the top of the tier list here, banning away the Persephone, banning away the Nemesis. That does still leave picks like the Cthulhu, the Amaterasu, the Rom to kind of slip through as well, depending on what Snake Pit chooses to ban in response.
If my guess is correct here, I think that Belt Slap are going to try and aim for this Yamoja because she's sitting at the perfect point where she kind of, can favor a ban, might not get a ban, but clearly they aren't deciding to ban it for themselves, so that is still available. And honestly, they could be trying to draft around a Hubwalk comp as well because Johnny is known for his hyper carries, as that Kali band indicates. So perhaps they pick up Yamoja here and then maybe Hubwalk later, get that double water synergy going on.
Yeah, I think that I would trust Trickstank to play the emoji here. And I think if I'm Snake Pit, these are good bans, but it is a little bit potentially scary if you allow that to come through. Now, the good thing is, if you're Snake Pit, we don't know that they'll necessarily play this emoji. We have seen them do it, but with the Ama picked up, you could go something like Yamoja or Rom, and I think feel really good about the way that this draft has opened up here for you. That is a great response to this Amaterasu taken first by Belt Slap.
Yeah, they're gonna have to be a little bit concerned about what's going in the solo lane, though, because, again, Julio is a superstar on these aggressive picks. So once this Amaterasu gets rolling, everybody else is gonna have to be really careful about it. So if I'm them, I'm probably throwing a Guardian in there just to kind of mitigate what they're up against here in the solo. But as you guessed, this Rom is gonna get locked in first and followed up by maybe even a Jormungandr. This is an interesting pick here, but I don't know that I love it. I think that it can be played super well, and it will grab them the pressure, but where's Yamoja? Come on.
Right. The thing is, you just don't think Beltsap are going to take Yorm away from you, right? There's no way they want to play that in the support role, and they already have this Amaterasu. So it does feel as though you could potentially wait around to your third pick to take this Yorm and maybe strip that Yamoja away here now, but perhaps Snake Pit kind of want Beltsap to play that Yamoja, or else they don't think that they will, because Beltsap have taken the Amo, they've taken the Jing Wei, and you'd think if they wanted, they would have grabbed it right away. So perhaps Snake Pit kind of playing chicken with that pick a little bit, daring Beltsap to grab it, and then planning to come in with a response.
Yeah, that is probably the thought process they're going for here, but here is that Morrigan you talked about right there for zeros. And honestly, great transformations all across the board. You got the Ama, you got the Yorm, you've got the Rom. Another snipe to lead the path there for zeros if he chooses. So plenty of great transformations here, and it's all about what's get picked in response here. I think the biggest choice here for them is that Heimdall is not going to be picked up, so the Morgan will be safe in terms of that invisibility. But there's the Yamoja finally that we were hoping for. And honestly, Dazer had a sick game on it last set, so I'm glad they're picking it back up.
It kind of worked out here for Snake Pit, but I cannot sign off on the way that this draft went on the top half, right? I mean, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me why the Yorm has to be taken in that spot as opposed to the Emoji. It works out. Snake Pit end up getting it. Beltsap do not want it and still get this Jing Wei to take over into the long lane, which is going to look strong anyway into this ROM, but just feels as though maybe the order a little bit off, but not a huge deal considering where everything ended up. So now the question can start to fall down towards these junglers next, right? Neither team has a jungler here up to this point. And as you mentioned, if you're Johnny, the whole world is open to you. The Assassin tab, the Mage tab, the Warrior tab. It feels like a losing effort to try and ban Johnny out from junglers at this point.
Yeah, I think the Ganesh ban is very smart because Ganesh does a really great job at locking down a bunch of these characters, especially if the Jormungandr is trying to charge up into the World Serpent. Throwing down the pillars right on there is a death sentence for him, and Fafnir, again, is another great pick that Trickstank has gone back to from time to time, so I think taking that one out is also eliminating a lot of safety that Trickstank could go to, but still on the board are things like Xing Chen, Kuzenbo even. I think that there are still plenty of options for this guy that have not been taken into account quite yet.
Kuzenbo would be an excellent option for Trickstank still at this point. Maybe even a chance they want to try and flex this Ama down there to it. I mean, at this point, it's a bit surprising to me they haven't picked Trix's pick, which is the only reason I'm considering the Ama might flex there. But still, if you've got someone like Julio on your team, you want to give him the best solo laner available, and you've got it in your hands already. So it'll be Snake Pit that are picking first. They've already had the Heimdall and the Merlin banned away from them. Now, this is a bit interesting. We have seen some of the mid laners even go for things like the Thoth when available, but it looks like Angry would instead want to take this Hera into the mid lane. How do you like it here?
It's very interesting because I think it does work out in an extent. I think that Argus is definitely a very powerful ability, and just Hera on her own slaps with her 1 and her 2 combined. They do massive amounts of damage. But on the other side, Trix is going for a classic Bacchus. We haven't seen this character really at all, I believe, this tournament, but even still, it does have some solid damage potential, and yet another moderately good transform for the Morrigan as she's just looking for some really quick burst and then some tanky survivability afterward.
Does also have some anti-heal there, which could certainly end up being helpful. And now the Ao Kuang, so some kind of mixture of the Mage and Assassin tab as the Ao comes through here for Johnny. And this has hyper carry potential written all over it, doesn't it? I mean, Ao Kuang can take over games. Morrigan could potentially turn into it. Morrigan could turn into the double Ama, double dazzling offensive, and whoever is left will get chewed up by this Ao Kuang. But now the Erlang Shen coming through for Snake Pit. Both junglers choosing to wait till the very end of their drafts to take these picks. And I think if I'm Snake Pit, I don't feel too bad about my chances here. They've got a great draft.
I agree. I think that their draft is slightly better than Belt Slap's in that there's a little more meta involved, and I understand Belt Slap are sick players. There is a reason they're coming into this set with a 1-game advantage, but even still, there are little concerning factors here and there that if Snake Pit can pluck those out and pull them apart, then they could easily fall apart come the mid to late game. But it's all about how they play Snake Pit's draft, because if they get off to a slow start, it is game over.
Yeah, I mean, I trust Belt Slap a lot, but did you have to take the Tingly that early with Olarun, a lot of other good hunters still available? A big question there, but Belt Slap have a chance to prove me absolutely wrong. Let's get into game number 2 here and get it down to the casters.
It is time to kick off the Phase 3 EU Finals here in the SCC playoffs. Dolson and Alpha Jackal going to be casting this one. Doug working the camera for us, but an early engagement. Spadio goes down right off the bat. You got to be kidding me. A fast start is exactly what the desk said that Belt Slap needed, and they've got it while the timer's still counting down.
Hey, Belt Slap, welcome back to the action. Snake Pit, are you okay? You awake? Well, good. You're now awake, 100%. Welcome to the Grand Finals. In a rude awakening there for Spadio in particular. He's a man filled with confidence from that last set, and that must have been knocked immediately thanks to that first blood.
That is brutal, and that ends up landing onto Trix Tank. So, really maybe a good jumping off point here, Alpha Jackal, is with this Bacchus, a support pick that we don't often see does provide great burst damage and setup potential, as we just saw. Slightly mana hungry, maybe, out of this lane. But it's a pick that Trix Tank seems to like.
Yeah, I think it's a really strong pick with their draft as well. They're just going for full-on aggression. As you can tell by the picks that they've got, and Trix Tank already hitting level 2 because of the fact he got that first blood. Spadio still doesn't have his beats. Well, he does have his beats available, but electing not to use them there and gets away with it safely, so good relic holdage there from Spadio. But to go back to the Bacchus, like I said, it's a fantastic pick for their draft, and with Zeros looking to have some options to transform into, both offensively and defensively, the Bacchus fits both boxes very quickly.
Seems to work out already for Belt Slap. Now the rest of the question is, can you slow down what Bacchus and the Jingwei are already doing to you there in the long lane, and that's pushing you out. And the opposite of what you're expecting maybe with the Yemoja locked in for Dazer. The continued conversations around this Yemoja normally have been based on priority, where she's been falling in the pick ban phase, whether or not she's even picked or banned. And we're starting to see Snake Pit, at least now, start to look a little bit more towards this Yemoja pick. So at least a chance there, going up against Bacchus, have some good counterpunch with that Yemoja to stay in the lane.
Yeah, as you saw in that graphic there, 87% of you think that Belt Slap are going to take this versus the 13% of Snake Pit, and that's for the entire set. And I think that is a fair assumption about what's going on. For every 6 times this set's played out, Belt Slap win 5 times. I think that's really good. And this draft that Snake Pit have got is really, really strong, I feel, for trying to exploit some of the weaknesses that Belt Slap have in their draft. It's going to take their characters, especially the mid-jungle, a bit longer to get online and start doing the things they need to do. But Snake Pit have gone for, you know, this Hera and this Erlang Shen, gods that are ready to fight from minute 1.
Oh, Worst Turtle gets the worst of a small bit of skirmishing with Johnny just now on this Ao Kuang. We've seen what the Ao Kuang can do out of the jungle. Johnny loves these types of picks. And Ao Kuang is absolutely one that can work for him once you get that scaling online. The executes there as well. Continued pressure over in the long lane. That's going to result in a purple buff invade this time around for Arkle and Trix Tank. An answer back from Dazer. Looks like
skills it.
Did end up getting dropped down by the Snake Pit. Trix Tank getting rip-tided right back in. Spudio's going to plug down some good damage, but Trix Tank is going to be able to walk his way away. So the secure from Dazer saves this lane from going bad to worse, I think, for Snake Pit.
Yeah, it's good, secure. Bit of unfortunate timing there from Belt Slap's damage, but the Snake Pit also managed to not only fend off the invade, but fend off any future invades, I would think, with the amount of damage he put onto Trix Tank. Dazer just, unfortunately, did not have enough Omi available to him to get that second Riptide off. Otherwise, we may have been able to see a return kill on the side of Belt Slap. But I'm looking at the mid lane for the next point of action.
Yeah, it is going to be important, and really around this Hera pick is what we've seen. To your point there, Alpha Jackal, a lot of fighting early and often around this Hera, so wouldn't be surprising. Worst Turtle ticking over to that level 5 mark is going to have great setup. Zeros, of course, with beads on the Morrigan is going to have the ability to shrug off some of that engage, but the lockdown potential from a 1-2 punch of an Erlang Shen and a Hera is going to be difficult, even with the beads on your side. I think one thing the desk thought was somewhat interesting, and I agree here, is the prioritization of this Jormungandr out of the draft. And you know, Yemoja ended up getting locked in nonetheless for Dazer. But what are expectations, I think, for Yorm here in this game? Do you like the lock-in for the Snake Pit?
I think it's a decent answer to an Amaterasu, and if you are going to be taking up a Jormungandr in the solo lane that early on, you're looking at it to have a decent impact in the rest of the game. You're looking for Terum to create enough space on the backline to justify this pick, especially when compared to some of the other picks we've seen them play today. Especially considering as well they banned out the tier. They really want Terum to be comfortable in this lane. They really want him to step up in this set. So by giving him something like Jormungandr, that speaks to me that their game plan's going to revolve around just stopping zeros and stopping from Arkil from getting into these fights as long as possible.
And great at setting up some pressure in lane here, going for Shoes the Magi, get a little bit of that extra burst damage right off the top. Is going to try to make Julio uncomfortable. Both junglers make their way over to the solo lane here. Johnny hanging just a bit further behind. That's the dash in. That connects onto Terum. The taunt right back through onto Julio. Dazzling Offensive is going to find the stun onto the Jormungandr. The chase looking underneath the tier 1 tower, but Terum has to turn away as Johnny snags the kill. Belt Slap come out ahead of this one.
15% damage mitigation on that dazzling aura from Amaterasu means that just not enough damage to take him down, and Worst Turtle and Terum pay the price for it. You notice as well that Johnny holds onto his execute, unable to take the Jormungandr up into the sky and swallow him whole, which is not surprising given his passive. Just a little bit of a tidbit information to you new Alquan players out there.
That's a very good point there. Johnny will grab at the kill nonetheless. There is some skirmishing now over towards the mid lane. Wondered when we would start to see some of that. So now we've seen Johnny affect both of the kills. Granted, everyone from Belt Slap was involved in the first one there. But this Alquan starting to pick up the pace here in this game a little bit. Worst Turtle was there on that engagement. One was unable, though, to turn things around in time onto Julio. So Johnny, if you're able to keep up this pace, this Alquan definitely in a position where you can control the game, control the speed from the jungle.
I don't think either team's too afraid of how this game's gone. Snake Pit, granted, we're a bit unfortunate on that first gank attempt, and the first blood was just something you can't really account for. So for all intents and purposes, they're still sticking to their guns, still sticking to what was going on initially. Whilst on the side of Belt Slap, it's going pretty well for them. No real attempts have been made onto zeros in the mid lane early on. Johnny hasn't had too much of his farm invaded on this Alquan in the early game, which is one of the big risks of picking him. And don't forget, Trixtank on this Bacchus. Bacchus isn't necessarily known as a early game support. He's one that's fantastic in that late game, probably the best support to have in the late game. And the fact that he's not falling behind either is a big boon to the Belt Slap draft.
I gotta feel good for Trixtank, to be sure. Plenty of setup. We're seeing that here. Gets the knock-up and the double stun through. Spuddio is gonna dash his way away, but up to the sky and now back down goes Arkle. He's face-tanking so much damage here. Has to use the beads to sidestep some of that CC. The final snipe will not connect from Spuddio. Trixtank goes up and down. No ultimate here for him. Double stun once more. Dodge to the side from Spuddio. Trixtank ends up going down. What a turnaround from the Snake Pit.
I don't think they accounted for the fact that he was under diminishing returns there with Spuddio. You see, just wait for the stun and then use the persistent gust, but he was just already out of that CC and manages to roll away. Great awareness from Spuddio to just, you know, hold on to the beats for as long as possible in that engagement and then be able to still turn it around. Julio looking for a very cheeky invade of his own, considering he has pressure on the solo lane. Going to get punished here onto that, that dazzling offensive. Julio goes and manages to escape the wrath of Worst Turtle, Angry, and Terum altogether.
I'm kind of going back to that long lane fight. It's an interesting fight, I think, for Belt Slap to fully engage on. I believe Spuddio had his Devourer's Gauntlet already completed and stacked up a good bit going into that engagement, and Arkle had just now gone back to finish that item, so it was a losing battle purely on maybe hunter damage alone, but there was setup there from Trixtank, and that setup is going to be important throughout the rest of this game. The Snake Pit also realizing that, you start to look at some of the CC and the lockdown that Belt Slap have for some of these team fights, the Snake Pit feeling some of that pressure. 4 beads off the rip here. Only the teleport for Terrorim is the outlier there. So the pressure is going to be mitigated. It's burning down those beads, maybe in situations like this, to set up for a fight. The taunt back through from Worst Turtle slows down the engagement. Zeros from the mid lane, not able to capitalize on the damage. It's really Johnny who's left lowest out of everyone from that engagement, but Belt Slap still trying to set the pace.
And that's one of the big reasons why Johnny wasn't able to execute so well, was the fact that Dazer has picked up those beads. And that's why he has picked them up, by the way. It's just so he doesn't get executed instantly by the Ao Kuang in these fights. Worst Turtle almost falls there. His beats are down, so Johnny knows he can fully engage and get the execute off onto that target. Dazer was in execute range, not attempted to be eaten, so wasn't really the main target of that engagement. And unfortunately for Snake Pit, all of them managed to get away from that attempted kill.
Yeah, it's a bummer there for Belt Slap, I think. Had a moment where you could maybe really push the aggression. Small ward here, so for the time being, Snake Pit will have an idea of where Johnny is and maybe where he's going to start rotating over towards. Interesting priority of anti-heal here, I think, for the Snake Pit. Divine Ruin first overall, not all that surprising maybe for Hera out of the mid lane. But Erlang Shen, oftentimes we'll see lean really heavily into more attack-based builds, but Brawler's Beat Stick is going to do some wonders in locking down some of the healing that Belt Slap are going to be bringing.
Yeah, you typically sometimes see them go into a Golden Blade. Well, rarely see them go into a Golden Blade if they want to just get some of that clear online a bit earlier. Stone-Cutting Sword has been something which we've seen them go into, but given that he's up against a magical jungler and kind of wants to focus onto the magical mid laner and there's a magical support, I'm really liking the fact that he went into Brawlers to go up for some anti-heal, and Dazer needs some help himself.
He's going to have to use the beads as Julio unable to finish off the kill, but Trixtank will leap on into the back line and grab this one. Snake Pit, they're here to fight though, or maybe not, as Arkle will airstrike away just to make doubly sure of his escape potential there. Small pick onto Dazer, beads were burns, but it wasn't enough. 4 members of Belt Slap are going to collapse on you.
It's double worse for Dazer, the fact that he popped his beads and he still managed to die. So
Right.
Trixtank just about securing that kill with his ultimate at the very end of the engagement. 3 kills to 1 races scoreline right now. Belt Slap find themselves with a comfortable 1,000 gold lead, but Snake Pit still have hope in this game. They still have the ability to turn things around at the snap of their fingers. But it was just a good rotation from Julio once again. He usually gets the pressure into the solo lane and manages to make it work for his team time and time again.
Well, Arco has to use the beads, and that'll shrug off the ultimate from Worst Turtle, but the pin on the back end is enough to knock down the Jing Wei. So for the next 30 or so seconds, Spudio's going to have a freer time farming up some of these minions, getting himself back into the ball game as far as levels go. Largely equal out of the long lane from what we've seen from both of these hunters, but if you kind of zoom out, I think Alpha Jackal, and sort of how you mentioned Belt Slap happy off to a faster start here, that's maybe the one downfall we've seen from this Belt Slap team, is that sometimes their games take a little bit longer to get going, so probably nice for them to be able to set the pace with some picks that we figure might be scaling a little bit better into the lane.
Yeah, back in the one set which we have seen them lose at the finals of season, well, not season, finals of phase 2 was against the Pappies. It was down to the fact that the games went on a bit too long for Belt Slap to really control and dominate, and the Pappies drafts were geared towards that late game. But Snake Pit have done something almost the opposite. They've got quite a few bits of early game, and Angry has just been ambushed here by Zeros, and now there's Amaterasu in her face.
No, it's a big transformation. The real Amaterasu will get the kill onto Angry. That's what the Morrigan brings. I'm just going to walk through your entire team, stun you down, and kill you off to the side. And what a place to take that fight for Belt Slap. Now Gold Fury being looked at, but too low to really continue with that effort. Our Belt Slap, half HP on a couple of the prime targets for team fighting. So the Snake Pit are going to weather that storm. But a great pick there for Belt Slap to bring the map pressure and open up for maybe some warding and a Gold Fury later on.
Yeah, Angry usually extremely calm and great with his positioning. In fact, one of the best positioning mid laners that are available in the European SEC side of things. But you can't position against that. There is no way you know exactly what's going to
can't.
happen when Zeros is just going to stealthily run past every single member of your team. And that's kind of why you don't give Zeros Morrigan. He is one of the best, if not the best Morrigan player on the planet, including those in the SPL, might I add. Back when he was playing in the SPL, it was banned against him consistently for this very reason.
Yeah, I'm angry here, and I'm walking behind 3 other members of my team, and I die, and I'm thinking, all right, there's literally nothing I could have done there. They tried to peel out, the Rivers Rebuke was used towards the end of it, and at that point you just got to throw up your hands and say, man, I don't know, there's just too much damage too quickly, so not much of a chance for me. Blink through here from Trixtank, that's going to snag a stun onto Dazer, but nothing more there to follow up. And we've talked, I think, a little bit, Alpha Jackal, about maybe some of the impact that we would see out of these solo laners, and I'm not sure it's really all that arguable at this point. Julio on this Amaterasu has just found more impact in these small skirmishes than Terrorum on the Jormungandr.
Yeah, the Jormungandr's good at getting you pressure in the early game, in the first 5 or 6 levels, but after that, the Amaterasu's just been A-okay in lane. In fact, Julio's got the pressure over him. Terrorum's just letting him clear whilst he's sitting under tower. Not exactly where you see the Jormungandr at all. Back when he was very popular, he was always getting the pressure in lane. But now it's just the tables have turned, and Julio's given the free reign in the map by that case. The worst Turtle is forced to use his speeds early on.
Zero stays alive. The Aegis enough to mitigate a lot of that damage, but Spudio just waits it out and will snipe down the kill. Lots of individual traits here, Alpha Jackal. Both teams sort of clashing together, but at the end of it, pretty much one person on either side is the only one that ends up dying off. Kind of across the board. This time it's Zeros, who opted for a very similar type of engagement to the last one, but too much lockdown there. That counter engage from the Hera, very, very strong. It's now Gold Fury started up, and an ultimate used by Dazer, so that's a big team fight utility. That's now down. Johnny being collapsed on here. It's a double silence from Julio as he tries to separate the fight. Worst Turtle being whittled away now as Trixtank jumps in, finds the big ultimate, and only able to get the one stun. But look at this, all grouped up in the back of the pit. Big fight here for Belt Slap. Angry, taken low, taken down by Arkle. Snake Pit grouped up too much. It's a double kill for Johnny. The chase is on as Trixtank is going to get the stun onto Terrorum, and it's a 3-kill swing for Johnny out of the jungle.
Oh, he wasn't done. He was looking for Daze. He was looking for that quadra kill, but doesn't have his blink available. Just used that to get in and get the execute to begin with. Has to unfortunately let that one go, so only a triple kill for Johnny.
Yeah, only.
You can't really say that about other players. It's like, oh, it's only a triple kill. It's not so great for him. Oh no, your team's getting a Fire Giant as well. Snake Pit had a good start to that fight. In fact, had a great start to that fight by catching Johnny's rotation and almost getting the kill onto him. But you have to finish the job, and they weren't able to do so.
There was just so much cleave damage there where Snake Pit, they all chased down Johnny and they got grouped up, and then Belt Slap took kind of the free grouping for some extra damage right off the top there. And this is so Belt Slap, isn't it? I mean, you go back and forth in the early, Snake Pit absolutely hanging in there, and then it is a singular fight that breaks things wide open. That is a 17-minute Fire Giant. It's kind of a quick stat. I mean, not necessarily a stat, but it's sort of a quick Fire Giant to be had here in this game when you look at how the things have started off. But Belt Slap now really break this map open. Still 5 towers left standing. Imagine the next few minutes are going to be a big swing.
I mean, it's quite a reminiscent of Season 2 and Season 3 energy. This is what was typically dubbed the energy minute. About 17 minutes into the game would still be even with games involving Energy, the 2-time world champions, and they would just then go, right, this is where we win a fight, this is where we then take the objective, and this is where we essentially win the game. And for Belt Slap, it's just come up time and time again, where, as you pointed out, the early game has not been the cleanest, or it's not been able to be snowballed to the effect that they would like, but come this 17-minute mark, it's just been Belt Slap wins a team fight and then takes whatever they want afterwards.
Right. Maybe the only advantage Snake Pit might have is a numbers advantage, and that's what Worst Turtle a moment ago thought he had in the mid lane, and Snake Pit do have here with Julio, but it's not Julio trapped in there with them, it's them trapped in with Julio. He's likely going to end up falling here nonetheless, but he's alone with 4 members of the Snake Pit. Johnny makes his way in, Spudio unable to take to the sky, so down he falls. as Johnny rampages before being shut down by Terrorim, but the airstrike up and over is going to help out Zeros and locking down the kill. 3 members dead, and Belt Slap working their way down the left lane.
2 members remain for the Snake Pit. Phoenix going down about quarter health. Trickster going to tank this up. Going to use the shell to tank him. They're engaging.
Whoa,
I thought it was just going to get
damage.
out. I would say got the Phoenix, but they want the kill. Dazer knocked up. Not enough damage from Arkil. And it's going to back out with the Phoenix with the kills. With Angry spawning in 3 seconds. That is a huge win for Belt Slap. But Julio is a madman.
He is. Yeah, I'll walk it 4 of you and still get a kill and almost survive until the end. And he did die, but he brought enough time for Johnny then to make his way through and finish off some of that damage. And you look at the 2 kills being traded out, it's very unfortunate for the Snake Pit that Arkle is the one left alive, able to help take down that Phoenix, the last tower. Now a tower here in the mid lane. So you talk about somebody you need to kill off as far as map pressure goes. Arkle being left standing is definitely unfortunate to say the least now from Snake Pit. Though that wasn't a full-on Phoenix defense, the Snake Pit were caught out just a little bit in front of it. How do you feel about the defensive stand that is certainly going to be coming here from the Snake Pit squad?
Oh, well, they've got to contest with another 50 seconds of Fire Giant first, after which they're probably going to have a minute's reprieve as Belt Slap wait for the next respawn. And then they're going to be left with a dilemma. Do they contest the next Fire Giant, or do they elect to just let that one drop and defend on the tier 2 towers, or even Phoenixes? But Terrorum's going to have to ult away from this situation in a second, and there we go, just popped very easily there by the ambush from Arkil. That's another potential steal of this Fire Giant used, because positioning wasn't all there together.
I love this move here from Belt Slap. You know, so often teams will back themselves off, but using every second of that FG buff, our Belt Slap here realizing that the Snake Pit were a little bit split off. Spudia was able to knock down tier 1 tower in the left lane, so a small bit of gold infused into the Snake Pit pockets. But this is to be expected, I think, from Belt Slap. You've just taken down a lot of map objectives. Let's go back, maybe spend up some of that final gold, set up some ward coverage on the Snake Pit side of the jungle, and then return to the FG in the next 45 or so seconds. It's going to be telling, I think, what we see from the Snake Pit here. They do have okay ward coverage, Alpha Jackal, and maybe that's enough to give them confidence to step out and defend.
Yeah, the good thing as well is that even though the tier 2 towers fell, the Phoenixes are still untouched. Belt Slap, they are merciful gods. Obviously, they decide to spare Snake Pit even further turmoil and trouble for now. Not to say that they won't in the future, this is just a blessing for them. You know, the chance for them to crawl out of their shell and fight them mano a mano on the Fire Giant. But I don't think they're going to take that invitation. I think the best thing that Snake Pit can do at this point is just give up this Fire Giant. You're more than 10k down. You can't really take a fight against Belt Slap at this point, even if you get the perfect engage. The best thing to do is try and use the Phoenixes to your advantage and defend on them.
That is exactly what will happen here. Snake Pit are not going to take the effort to move out and contest the Fire Giant. That's the second Fire Giant in the game. 22 minutes in, Angry, blink through from Johnny. Argus is going to get beadsed out this time, and no chance for Angry to stay alive. That could be a game-ending pick there, as Belt Slap have a 5v4.
Yeah, I think that's just... Angry wanted some farm, wasn't with the rest of his team. Johnny recognizing that someone has to push up that left-hand side to spare the Phoenix, and, you know, finds the prime target, even. Dazer already down to half health, but Arkle's forced away quite early. Spodio, 1, 2, 3 is not going to be able to hit.
And Zero is still doing damage in the back. Johnny has run down one more. It's worst turtle this time. Now it is a 5v3. Not heavy levels of sustain for Belt Slap, so Arkle is going to have to lifesteal his way up, but positioning is going to be key here in this one. Johnny lurking around the left, but this is a numbers game for Belt Slap, and they realize that Spudio in the back line gets stunned down, knocked up, almost taken down, but he's done good damage in the meantime. Finally, Julio finishes off the kill as the right side Phoenix ends up going down. Dazer crit right back to the fountain. Angry back on the respawn, finds the polymorph, but Belt Slap going to play this one slow.
They got one more Phoenix to take down, and it's quite low, so might as well just take that one. Take a small second to reach out with the Fire Giant, especially for Trick's tank. and then just go in for the end afterwards. But
Why
for the
not?
Snake Pit, you have a look at the draft, and you think it was good for themselves. You have a look at what Belt Slap got. Not exactly what you want to see, as Angry almost takes another spill before getting into the fountain.
A little bit split on the Titan here. You have to be careful, Belt Slap, as Worst Turtle is back up. Does not have his ultimate. Zero's stealths on in. Angry is going to get knocked up. Stunned this time. Still no beads from the last engagement from Johnny. Trickstank silenced down, and Terrim will finish off the kill. Belt Slap maybe have stayed too long. The Snake Pit able to respawn and have those ultimates now. Julio riptided back in, and River's Rebuke is going to lock him in place. Snake Pit still alive.
That was a good play by Snake Pit. Belt Slap, but like you said, overstayed their welcome. They bit too split. Worst Turtle was fortunate that Zeros didn't catch him there, but I think Johnny knows exactly where to go. Even with that damage mitigation, even with that healing coming in, the heal doesn't even go off. Zeros picks up yet another kill. The Titan is down to half health here. Snake Pit can't venture out any further.
Yeah, all 3 Phoenixes are down. Everything in the map falls except for the Titan here. I like the maybe cautiousness from Belt Slap at this point. You realize that the Snake Pit have a defense under that Titan. They can hold their own. 3 members against the 4, still not a winning fight, especially when you have a Hera on the opposite side. Julio has been an absolute menace here this game alongside Johnny. That Frostbound Hammer, fantastic for sticking on some of the backline and frontline members of the Snake Pit. At this point, Alpha Jackal, you know, fire minions pouring all in. Now you got Oni fire minions as well. It seems like regroup, push down, and grab yourself the win.
Yeah, this is a formality here for Belt Slap to just walk in and take the game for themselves and push us on to a game number 3 or game number 2, depending how you look at it, with Belt Slap coming into this set with the 1-game advantage already. For Snake Pit, this is the time where you almost get to decide your next set of picks and bans a bit more. Talk about what went right this game, what went wrong, what you'd like to do differently. Would you like first or second pick? And I'm having a look at this Amaterasu as one of the big things to take away.
Trickstank drops a decent ultimate onto the backline of the Snake Pit, but nobody is there. Arkle, he's been caught out this time around. Some good shielding is going to slow down Angry as Johnny deletes the Hera from the map. It's a double kill for the Alkwong. Snake Pit's time seems to be dwindling here. Dazer attempting to retreat. Zeros transforms into the Amaterasu. They're going to run down Dazer. Terrorim is split off here. The Titan will fall, and Belt Slap take a 2-0 lead.
26 minutes, about 25 of them seem to be agony for the Snake Pit in that game, as Belt Slap run a clinic in this game. 17-minute Fire Giant, and it, like you said, it was looking okay for the Snake Pit, though, for the most part of the game, but the second it hit that 17-minute mark, it was just consistently Belt Slap decimating the rest of the game.
And what a call there from the Belt Slap 17 minutes in. Finally, there's a fight where they can really get a big swing advantage, and they immediately go over to that FG, and everything was basically done from that point on. A little bit of punch back from the Snake Pit, but not enough here to lock down Belt Slap. Belt Slap 1 win away from being your Phase 3 champions here over in Europe. We're going to take a quick break before we break down game number 2.
Welcome back to the circuit playoffs, and no, you didn't miss it. It was just that quick belt slap. We're able to run over Snake Pit in this first game, and I think that makes some sense. They got a lot of signature picks, like Zero's on Morgan, Johnny on the Ao Kuang. I guess it's not signature, but Trickstack on the Bacchus looked pretty good too. They ran over them. Lermy, where did things go wrong here for Snake Pit?
Oh gosh, you could even say from minute 1 it went wrong, or before minute 1 actually, when Trickstank grouped up as 5 on that left-hand side and ran it down for first blood. After that, man, it all went down from there, ending up in a 17-minute Fire Giant. 17 minutes, that is incredibly early, and just from there, as AJ put it on the cast, a clinic from the belt slap.
Yeah, I think this is what Belsac are likely going to look like against everybody here in this Challenger circuit, man. They're just too strong of a team. There's so much raw talent here. And remember, Johnny used to be doing stuff like this on a weaker team. No knock to Optimus Prime, I believe that's who he was playing with. Those guys are talented, but nothing like what Zero's, Trickstack, Arkle, and Julio are bringing around him. And they enabled him to go even stronger than before. Ao Kuang is not all that strong right now. I mean, he's good, but you shouldn't be doing stuff like this on him. That's just Johnny did.
Oh yeah, especially into this comp, I was actually surprised he went for the Ao Kuang, considering you can't really execute Jormungandr. Erlang, Shen, and Umoja have got the healing too, so you're probably going to get a little tripped up with that, but not a master like Johnny. This man went nuts. 10-1-6. I mean, it's really hard to give this man any criticism at all, because he just looks nuts on a character that nobody else plays.
And the thing is, with Snake Pit, I thought they did some good work coming into this draft, right? I mean, you're not going to be able to keep everything away from a team like Belt Slap, but they got the Emoja onto their side. They got the ROM onto their side. They did a good job eliminating some of what strong picks Belt Slap got, and it really still didn't make a difference. I mean, how often are you going to tell Spudia to play the beginning of the game differently than he did, getting bopped before minions spawn? That just doesn't happen typically, not very often to the point where you'd be changing the way that you play. So if I'm Snake Pit, I don't know if you want to change a lot with how this went. You just went to try and reset your mental, I think, first and foremost, and try and come back in. Because remember, Belslap came in with the game advantage. It's already 2-0. If they lose again, it's just over. So they got to make sure they're reset and ready to come back in strong.
Yeah, I think that really is the biggest difference here, is that their mental needs to be pristine going into this possibly last game. If they're not able to come back, even with a draft as strong as they had, it is GG from that point on. So I think if they're able to, once again, run back the draft, but play the game a little bit differently, a little bit more calculated with how they're playing, a little more careful, because they saw what Belslap was willing to do at the beginning of the game. They can't let that happen again.
And I wonder if the only adjustment Snake Pit really need to make is trying to get a more fighty mid 3v3 as we get ready for the picks and bans for game number 3. Remember, we had game number 1 already as the bonus game that went right over to them. We just watched game 2, now on to game 3. I wonder if they need a mid 3v3 that's a little bit more capable of fighting, something that gives them a chance to get out in front of Johnny, to mitigate him. I don't want to say shut him down. I've yet to see that happen as long as Johnny's been playing, but at least try and get out in front, right, and slow him down a bit.
Yeah, that's going to be the question, right? Because, I mean, Hera is a great character for sure, but she just kind of has to sit on the back line and let Argus and the range of Polymorph do the business. And at this point, that wasn't really what they needed. A little more self-peel might be necessary in those situations to just get away from Johnny, get away from Julio or whoever is diving onto him, because that just was not the best performance there on the Hera. But Snake Pit making an adjustment here, actually banning away the ROM. Kind of surprising considering how good they looked with it too.
Yeah, apparently it's not enough coming into this matchup, and they're going to ban this away. I wonder what this opens up for them. Maybe they want to try and pick Jingwei away from Belslap later on or something like that, but I still am not sure if this is really addressing the core of what was the problem for them, which was what Trickstank and Johnny were able to do from the beginning of this game. Then also when Julio was able to rotate over, got some good work done in solo. So we'll just have to kind of follow along. They will ban away this Amaterasu. Julio got that, and that was not pretty. So I don't mind these top bans there from them, but it does still leave a lot of good stuff open here, Lenny.
Oh yeah, we still are waiting on the Umoja, and beyond that, there are a bunch of other very safe picks to go for. I mean, we've seen people prioritize this Sobek. Maybe that's what they're going to go for, but no, they are taking away Johnny's Kali. First pick Kali. This has been a theme throughout these playoffs so far.
for everyone but Belt Slap, and everyone but Belt Slap has been losing to Belt Slap, so that does scare me a little bit. But yes, this has been the trend here in the playoffs, and I'm interested to see if this makes enough of a difference. We have seen, ironically, Worcester will be able to get off to good starts on Kali, even though she's thought of as this late-game carry, and I was joking by implying that Belt Slap would do anything other than top pick this Jingwei for Arkle for some reason, but he wants that comfort pick, so he gets it.
Yeah, and the safety is very important too, because if Kali's not able to get off to a good start, then it's going to be really difficult. And Jingwei makes that so hard for this Kali, who's got to find a way to get through that airstrike and chase her down. So, assuming that Kali doesn't gank this Jingwei pre-5, I don't see a world where she dies.
Well, this Sobek is a bit of a flex pick, but I wonder if this is more for Trix Tank than it is for Julio. I mean, it just doesn't... I feel like Julio wants somebody who can get in there and get his hands dirty, right? Where he can be actively causing damage. So I'm not 100% sold on going to him, though it could go either way. Meanwhile, Snake Pit pick up this Cupid, and this has been a pick that has been getting banned a lot here lately, Lermy, not letting it through. And that's because it's probably the second strongest hunter to ROM out there right now, a strong team fighter. Honestly, I liked their draft last time, but I like this start too with the Kali Cupid, but I'm not a big believer in the Fafnir, so they lost me with this one.
Yeah, I don't know how to feel about this Fafnir, because of course it works very well into a double auto-attacker comp, so they could just full commit and go for a magical ADC come the second phase. So if I'm Belt Slap, I might be thinking, okay, let's take away the Olorun, let's take away a Freya. Those are some options that are still relatively strong right now, but instead of that, we're already going to see Belt Slap go for this Morrigan. So once again, some great transforms on the board, and the safety is still there as she transforms into basically any of the tanks at this point. Turning into Fafnir, you just get that immunity right away from turning into the dragon and can leap right on away. And Sobek, I mean, by all means, get into that lurking in the waters. No way a Kali can kill you there.
Yeah, some excellent targets. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see something like a Kali come out from even later on. Lots of good options here for Zeros. And I like the way Belt Slap have done this. You know that Arkle wants the Jingwei and that Zeros wants the Morrigan. So they've given nothing away from the draft. The Sobek still has some minor flex potential, though I do think that's going to Trix. And I wonder if they're going to leave Johnny's pick for last. Let him kind of see what Snake Pit are picking, and then he can decide what jungler, warrior, whatever it is that he wants to take in response to the picks that Snake Pit have. Snake Pit are going to try and ban some of his stuff away. They're banning away the Robin, but as always, it feels like a bit of a futile effort since he can play literally anything.
Yeah, it's hard to say. He could honestly go for the Ao Kuang again. It's not too bad up against the Cupid, because you can just use the Execute as a CC immunity in the middle of the fields if you absolutely have to, but Camazotz is a great ban out as well. I think that Robin is definitely the hard counter, and Camazotz has got a ton of safety by going up into the Bat Out of Hell, so they've eliminated two really great options, but like you said, Johnny could pick basically anything.
And it looks like they are going to be waiting on that pick for Johnny as well, as we hypothesized. The Sobek likely going to Trix Tank, this Wukong likely going to solo. We'll give him a little bit of credit for that being flexed, but I think that's likely where those picks will go. So now Johnny gets to take a look and see what's the mid lane pick going to be and what's the solo lane pick going to be. It's going to be this Hera run back. So, I mean, if he wants to go into this Ao Kuang again, I'm with you, Lermy. I don't see any reason why he'd hesitate on it, but he still has plenty of options, right? If he wants to pick up a Thor, something more hyper carry, those are there for him, so he has plenty of flex.
Typically, I'm not a fan of the Wukong jungle, but I could get behind it here. We've been seeing it before up in the SPL by Sam for Soccer and Scream, so I think that if he wants to go for it, he certainly could. There's a very good matchup that he has up into the Cupid by being able to go into the Somersault Cloud and then just slap right down as soon as they're over right on top of him. And if you're building damage, that ability does a lot more than you actually think it might. So honestly, it could be worth it to see that happening, but of course with Belt Slap's last pick here, I think that will confirm it for us, but we're still waiting to see what they want to do.
It's interesting to bring up the Wukong jungle, though. Gore loves to preach about how strong Tiger's Stun is. I mean, right at the beginning of the game, too, and how much surprise damage that does. Wukong has some damage-dealing options. You will not be hurting for damage from your jungler if he elects to go with this Wukong. But that will not be the case. Johnny choosing to pick up the iconic Ao Kuang jungle alongside that Wukong solo. And this is scary, man. I mean, this could very easily be Belt Slap closing this game out, because with Trix Tank on Sobek, it feels almost like an upgrade at the support position. They've only gotten better.
I've got to agree with you here. Their comp is just so aggressive, and especially putting Johnny back on the pick that he is the most known for. I mean, especially after a game like that where he goes 10-1 and whatever assist. It doesn't matter how much he helped. It's just the fact that he hard carried that game. It was his backpack the rest of the team was in. So putting him back on that, it's a great look for them.
So nuts to imagine a world where Trixtank, Arkle, and Julio are jumping at someone else's backpack. But, I mean, so they don't have to do much more work, right? Because that's how strong a player Julio is. Now, Snake Pit have some strong tools. You mentioned how they have this synergy between the Cupid Collie and this Fafnir Coerce. They have the ability to tank up objectives when Hera is able to bring out this Argus. The Execute could potentially get rid of some of those belt slap problems before they get to the point where they're really feeling strong. But it feels like an uphill battle here for Snake Pit. Either way, though, game number 3 about to get underway. Getting it down to Dulcin to take it from here.
Belt Slap 1 win away from being back on top here in Europe in the Phase 3 Circuit Playoff Final. Still Dulcin, still Alpha Jackal, still Doug on the camera for us here for game number 3. Some changes, Alpha Jackal, as far as drafts go heading into game 3 here, but maybe the core of what worked for Belt Slap in game number 2, and that's the Morrigan and this Ao Kuang. Still pieces on the of the puzzle, pieces of that picture still remain here in game 3.
Yeah, when Johnny had a disgusting performance like he did in the last game, when Zeros was allowed to do what he wanted to do on Morrigan, and he decided to give it back to them, you better have a plan in mind, I feel. And the plan could be the very fact that they have some damage over time on their abilities now. Don't forget that Draconic Transformation from Dazer will give him some damage over time to help reveal the stealths. Worst Turtle in his Destruction Ultimate will have an area around him which will catch people who are in stealth. So a bit more availability to them to reveal the Invis duo here in the mid and jungle from Belt Slap. But I still don't see it working out for them, if I'm honest.
Well, big thumbs up here for the Snake Pit. They haven't died in the first 10 seconds of the game coming into this one, so that's at least, you know, a win, if nothing else, that they're starting this game off on their own terms. And I kind of like you bringing up the Fafnir, and maybe it's a good pivot point as well, talking about that first blood. It was Trixtank that set that one up previously. Might now be able to set one up onto Dazer. Had the pluck, reach level 2 first. Alright, you didn't die 10 seconds in. I'm sorry, you died a minute in this time around. Belt Slap, and it's again Trixtank setting up an early kill.
Okay, so they died 10 seconds before minions spawned, and then they died 10 seconds before a minute after minions spawned. So just 1 minute later, but the same result happens, and it's in dual lane. But the unfortunate thing for Snake Pit is it's not an assist onto everybody. You know, it's not a 4-man assist, it's only a 1-man assist. We can breathe easy at night for that.
And that's why level 2, so important there. Trixtank was able to have that engage up. Unfortunately, it's Dazer who goes down. No beads for him this time. It's going to be the blink on that Fafnir. Beads likely would have saved his life, but that is a moot point. He doesn't have it online. Spudio did use his beads, however, so 1 pluck sets up for maybe another kill here in the long lane. Definitely something you have to keep your eyes on. But now we've maybe seen some of the weaknesses of this Fafnir. Now maybe we see the strengths of the Fafnir. It's going to be the blink right back in, a stun, followed up by another. But Arkle is just going to lose half of his HP. Will hold on to his beads, and he'll stay alive.
Yeah, I'm not so sold on the blink coming out from a Fafnir. He doesn't really utilize it that well for his kit. He has a leap to get into the situation.
It's a jump anyway.
Transform and then leap out. I would have loved to have seen like a shell or a curse even coming out from them just to try and, by curse I mean horrific emblem, just to try and reduce some of the movement capabilities of Belt Slap.
Yeah, it is interesting, and you know it did set up for some pressure onto Arkle. We'll have to kind of keep our finger on that pulse throughout the rest of the game. I mean, Fafnir as a whole, I think, is in an interesting spot where has been prioritized some here this weekend. I mean, plenty of CC and, you know, utility there in that kit. Coerce, of course, very, very strong. Where do we land, though, on this Fafnir? I mean, is that a pick you're getting excited about?
To be honest, also, I'm not getting excited about it. We saw it in the last set. It did kind of do well, but I personally don't really like the Fafnir. I much prefer to see him on the Emoji, much prefer to see him on the Sobek. Granted, both of them were taken away from him.
Yes. Maybe
go for something like the Kuzenbo, which does similar job to the Sobek, something which he has found great success on, which is just play in their faces and blink aggressively.
Yeah, it's a good point, and I think I agree with you there on that. So, you know, Dazer maybe fighting an uphill conversation battle with us here is going to have to show us something on this Fafnir to convince us otherwise. Now, one thing we did somewhat criticized previously, not necessarily that it was a bad pick, but didn't find the value maybe that the Snake Pit were looking for in game number 2, was that Jormungandr out of the solo lane. Achilles kind of on the opposite end of that, where you can get that overwhelming damage and some good executes to be set up there. So Tarim, definitely a large role to play come rotation time for these solo laners.
Yeah, he does kind of get pressure early like a Jormungandr, not guaranteed it like the Jormungandr is able to be doing so, but fulfills a slightly different role going into that late game. As fight does break out, Trixtank going to be the Urk here, as Dazer jumps in aggressively. Is level 5, but thinks better about transforming.
Whoa, and is that a solo kill out of the mid lane? It looks like it was Angry with just the shoes of the Magi online, and then a little bit of damage, of course, on top is going to lock down Zeros in the mid lane. Did not see that one coming. Of course, the potential of that is always there once Argus is able to be used. Now, small engagement here. Trixtank exchanging places with Dazer here. Up and over goes Arkle to disengage from this fight. Low are Dazer and Spudio, but the rotation from the Snake Pit in behind Trixtank is here. It's just going to be the purple buff invade now.
I'm still just jaw on the floor from that blink play from Trixtank.
Wow.
The cheek of that to just blink past Dazer's jump. That is insane. And I need to take a seat in this one. Oh.
Yeah, he hit him with the hot swap, and Dazer was not expecting it. Luckily, Trixtank able to stay alive. Arkle were nearly not able to say the same for him. Transformation from Zeros in the mid lane, turn into that Wukong. Provide himself some healing on the back end of the fight. But it was a red buff invade from Snake Pit. You gotta admire, I think, that aggression. Sometimes we see Kali's just kind of mentally check themselves out, farm themselves into that mid to late game, but Worst Turtle's having none of that, trying to drive some pressure here in the first 5 or 6 minutes.
I like his aggression. I like the fact that they are trying to still make plays happen. Dazer's still over here on this left-hand side, giving pressure back to Spudio. They're going to go into Trixtank. They know his ultimate's down. Unfortunately, the hard bomb does look to connect. The jump in from Trix. Well, Dazer, sorry. Trixtank's going to live.
That's got to be aggravating at this point for the Snake Pit. I mean, after First Blood, I think the Snake Pit would have been totally justified in losing the rest of the pressure in the lane, but not here, not now. Arkle is going to get stunned down, uses the beads at the perfect time. Will stay alive. And that's another great boon to my point. I think you're getting all of this pressure if you're the Snake Pit, which is a big win. But so many, now what, 2, 3, maybe 4 kills have gotten away with red HP, so that's got to be slightly aggravating, but the amount of pressure being put in onto this lane has got to feel good for the Snake Pit after losing First Blood just a minute in.
I like what they're doing, which is constantly forcing beads, constantly forcing relics, constantly forcing ultimates over here on the left-hand side. I just want to see Worstittle utilize the fact that they're forcing all of this and come over for a gank when they're not really expecting it. You don't expect the Kali to come over while Spudio doesn't have his ultimate available, or beads, or maybe most of his health available. So this would be a good opportunity to come over.
Yeah, Spudio has to dash away from this one. Trixtank always a threat with that plucked, makes his way back to lane. An extra item in hand here, so the small window for engagement is there for Belt Slap, a 1-level lead, small item advantage as well. But over here on the blue buff side, Johnny and Julio are going to combine for a little bit of damage onto Tarim and Worst Turtle, both down to half HP. And for that, the Snake Pit are going to have to give up this blue buff.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize it, but the Wukong's Master's Will, a second ability, does an excruciating amount of damage if you level that one up first. And what is Zero's doing when he's playing Morrigan? Oh yeah, he's leveling up his Dark Omen, which is that second ability. It's why you saw him transform into the Sun Wukong early on, because not only is he getting the full benefit of a ability that chunks people, he's also getting the ability to stay away very safely with the 72 transformations, get himself into a Somersault Cloud with a CC Immune Ultimate, and Trixtank finds himself in the middle of everybody.
It's getting locked in here, silenced down and deleted by Worst Turtle. Unfortunate for the Sobek, locked in by the Fields of Love, but Belt Slap trying to swing back in this engagement. Zeros transforms into the Sun Wukong, will leap his way away from the engagement. Unfortunate there from Trixtank. That Fields of Love from Spudio paid off and locking down another kill for the Snake Pit.
It must be frustrating if you've got a god that sort of relies on their movement ability to engage a fight. In fact, your entire team relies on that ability to engage the fight, and just have somebody else in the team go, no, don't.
No.
You stop right there, we're going to kill you instead.
Yeah, Spudio drops it down, and then Trixtank is just sort of left standing there, wondering what his next move is, and was able to use the ultimate, but unfortunately for Trixtank rather, Snake Pit collapsed just a little quicker. But this is what we see, Alpha Jackal, with Belt Slap, where the early game, you know, individual picks here and there might not be going in their favor, but Belt Slap have such a good, I think, grasp on farming, you know, the overall macro of the game, which way these waves are pushing, things like that. You see a one-level lead kind of across the board except for in the mid lane, so it's very Belt Slap-esque to be down in kills, but even a little ahead in gold 9 or 10 minutes into the game.
That's just come from a few invades they managed to find, like on this blue buff, for example. Favorable splitting as well in the jungle. Johnny and Zero's been sticking together a bit more often than they usually do. And Wurstel and Angry have been basically staying far apart from each other, which is why you see Angry does have this level lead over Zero's in the mid lane. Also helps that he got the solo kill, don't forget. That's still weighing over him, as that was one of Snake Pit's only 2 kills so far. Belt Slap only 1 to their name, don't forget, and that was that first blood. Snake Pit do find themselves with a slight gold lead. Spudio looking to set up yet another ambush. And you're going to see that interaction a lot, by the way, the Cupid and Jingwei matchup is one ultimate gets used, the other gets used for retaliation. A lot of safety removed there for the Jingwei.
Yeah, now Arkle, susceptible to a gank, does have beads, but instead is just going to back off, spend some of that gold, and quickly make his way back onto lane. We gave Dazer some... Not Dazer, we gave Fafnir, let me correct myself there, maybe some warranted criticism, and certainly not a bad pick, but maybe better available, but has looked okay here up to this point. A lot of the pushing happening in that long lane for the Snake Pit and setting up some decent engages onto Trixtank. Maybe a small skirmish here. As Dazer's going to walk his way forward, won't really have much more come of it there. And you start to look at where the junglers have been here in this game. Johnny, by this point in the last game, had really been a driving force in some of the pressure that you put out on the map, but it's Wurstturtle, maybe Alpha Jackal. It's only 3 kills on the board 11 minutes in, so anything is going to be slower, granted, than game number 2. But this Kali has really been the one kind of moving and shaking, and outside of maybe a blue buff invade or two, gotten some of that scaling started off early.
Decent position for him to be in as well, but I'd like to have seen him put a tiny bit more pressure onto Johnny. We saw at level 1, level 2 that he did try and go for the red buff invade, and there's the pressure onto Johnny. Hey, Caster's cursed him.
And it's fantastic timing there for the Snake Pit as Argus will drop down. The setup from Angry, brilliant. And now this Kali, a couple of kills in the back pocket. Gold Fury looked at now by the Snake Pit. Dazer zoning out the back line of Belt Slap here. Half HP on the Fury. Trixtank working down below. Is going to get some chunk damage down on a Dazer who has to leap his way away over the Oracles. He goes. Zero's in the back line. Oh, he stealths away and transforms just in time to escape. Somersault Cloud up and over. The miraculous escape from Zero's keeps him alive. Neither team better off for it, but the Snake Pit, they're going to return right back to the Gold Fury.
But still around is Trixtank and Arkle, and I think just the presence of those two alone is going to force him to back off. Julio hasn't made his rotation, has teleport up in 8 seconds, so imagine if Snake Pit do go back onto that objective, he'll make his swift way over here to the left-hand side. Though it's good pick for Snake Pit, unable to get anything off the back of it, but it's just a bit more of that, yeah, we're still here, we're still kicking about, and we can still win this game if you're not careful.
What do we think here from Wurstturtle? Obviously 2 kills in the back pocket, Warrior Tabi, as well as the Crusher on the Kali, who is, you know, almost always auto-attack based damage, just melting down those targets. What do we think with a little bit of the ability focus here early on in that build?
It just allows for a bit more burst to come out from that stun, and what's more, provides even more damage over time abilities to stop Zeros and Johnny from getting away very easily if they do get themselves with the beads or do get themselves a bit further away. There's more opportunities for them to catch these tricky to lock down picks.
Yeah, so it's good there for Wurstturtle, bringing Hecate for Johnny. Similar start to what he had last time, if not the exact same. So the scaling of Kali is always where that conversation goes. But Ao Kuang as well, and you know, it's a fringe pick for maybe anyone but Johnny. Maybe comparable levels of scaling there. Johnny probably not super worried that he's a little bit behind here. I mean, level-wise, he's dead even. Net worth-wise, 400 gold behind, so not massive deficit there. I mean, it's a great start for the Snake Pit, but if there's a jungler that can maybe scale well with this Kali, maybe it's the Ao Kuang.
And when they do look to try and fight each other on these Phoenix defenses or Phoenix sieges, depending on which way you're looking at it, it's going to come down to whether Worst Turtle has his ultimate up or not, and whether Johnny's able to get the burst off to begin with. If it goes the way of Johnny, and Worst Turtle doesn't have his ultimate to begin with, then Johnny's going to just run through him like a freight train. If Worst Turtle does have that ultimate available to him, Johnny has to be extremely careful about how he wants to engage them, otherwise he will end up losing the fight, and I wouldn't be surprised if Worst Turtle has Johnny as his mark 24/7 come the 20-minute mark beyond, just to have that 1v1 potential.
Right, I mean, by the end of the game, in game number 2, Johnny was just walking at individual members of the Snake Pit, and that really is what broke open the base to finalize the game there, so Worst Turtle has some of that potential in his pocket now here at game number 3. Again, good start for the Snake Pit. Let's see how this skirmish maybe changes things around. Zeros bulls his way through a couple members of the Snake Pit, but immediately has to go up into the ultimate, so the engage, maybe not what Belt Slap were looking for, and they'll back off.
No, I think they were waiting for Julio to try and come around the bottom of the engagement to a big pincer movement with the two Sun Wukongs, but there's good zone potential there by Terrorim, and now Trix Tank goes into his lurking in the waters to take them away from the Gold Fury. They do take the Oracles as well, so Belt Slap will know Snake Pit attempt this objective yet again.
This is tough for Belt Slap. The Snake Pit doing such a good job of kind of pump faking this Gold Fury. This time looks like more of an active commit, but the Oracles are down for Belt Slap around the side as Trix Tank is slowed down, won't be in range to take away the Gold Fury as the Snake Pit complete the objective. Now Trix Tank locked in with Argus, and Angry snags the kill. Johnny marked down now, side steps the Polymorph. Angry taken down to half HP though. Arcos found himself free range for damage in the backline. Airstrike locks down Angry out of the Harpy Pit there. Julio runs himself away. They're gonna bait out on the decoy there. Arco looking for maybe a little bit extra, but it's a 1-for-1 trade. You have to remember though, the Gold Fury goes the way of the Snake Pit.
Oh, but it might be a bit worse here, as there goes
Nice.
Terrorim, gets the kill to Arkle thanks to good play from Worst Turtle. Execute just about misses, but Worst Turtle falls down to Johnny in another 1-for-1 trade. Belt Slap keeping themselves alive in this one.
That's right, the tug of war continues. Johnny now being looked at by new members of the Snake Pit. Can you do enough damage to maybe turn around a kill here is the question. This is going to get stunned down and eventually falls to Spudio. Spudio did have to use the Aegis there, so Johnny maybe realizing he was going to die nonetheless, at least has something, a small victory maybe come of it. Maybe surprising though, Alpha Jackal, that fight isn't even more convincingly for in favor of the Snake Pit. You look at Zeros used his ultimate early on there. Trix Tank then had to use it defensively, and Belt Slap still able to pull back a couple of kills.
That was Julio blinking into the middle of 4 people being an absolute man-mountain. In level 17 on the Wukong, the highest level in the game. Does have some good defensives online with the Breastplate of Valor as well as the Genji's Guard. And don't forget, like I said, he does do a considerable amount of damage with that Master's Will. Angry did fall because of the damage caused by Julio, and because of the disruption caused by Julio. They were all trying to pour into the mid lane, and that's why Worst Turtle was wrapping around the back before she got caught out by himself, just because of the amount of pressure and amount of zoning potential that Julio put down onto that top side and left mids.
Maybe that's a big part of why we've seen Zeros pretty much exclusively transform into that Sun Wukong. It's gonna stealth his way right around Dazer here. Funny interaction there. Back to farming he goes. Dazer, no stun for you. Notice still the Snake Pit working their way forward here. Pyromancer being looked at. A little more attack speed for the Worst Turtle. Now, Spudio and Arkle, though, 1v1 here, and Spudio gets the better of him this time. Dazer thrown back, though, on the opposite side of the map. Zeros grabs the stun, but then a Polymorph straight to the face afterwards. Aegis used, but not long enough for Terrorim to turn around and get the kill there. Dazer still on the chase. Trix Tank is going to get stunned down and dash himself away. The Snake Pit looking very in form, and Belt Slap a little shaky.
Belt Slap just playing way too aggressive for what they had available to them. I mean, Arkle going in for the 1v1, I get the fact that he got that crit on and wanted to try and just push it even further, just wasn't able to get anything outside of that. Then Zero's play after that he doesn't have bead, so he's looking to just,
great.
well, Johnny's going to eat up people here, and I think that's going to be the end of this fight in the favor of Belt Slap.
Oh, but the destruction does not end up finding the full heal. Oh, Spudio turns around the damage onto Johnny. Belt Slap stayed just a little bit too long here. The eyes turned red as the kills were just around the corner. Tarim does not have his ultimate, so Julio will be able to run his way away and stay alive there. It's just been over. I mean, this is what, the second now solo kill, if we're kind of ignoring the last little bit of skirmishing there. Spudio gets a solo kill onto Arco out of the long lane earlier in this game. Angry gets a solo kill over Zeros. The mechanics of the Snake Pit have just been on par here this game, and this is a different Belt Slap, where it's not uncommon to see them down, what, 5 or so kills. But normally they're at least somewhere close in gold. This is complete game control by the Snake Pit, not just in the kills department, but objectives, gold, effectively everything here up to this point.
It doesn't feel like it's 1,700 gold only in the lead for Snake Pit. It feels closer to 4,000 with the way they're able to take these team fights so comfortably. Back to that Zeros play, he was hoping to go in, get the beads out from Angry, and then just transform to Wukong and fly away. Issue was Angry has some god-tier reflexes, it seems. Just pops those beads and then immediately uses his polymorph transformation onto Zeros before he can get through with that Changeling ultimate. And Zeros just dies because of it. So great reactionary play by Snake Pit to take advantage of the fact that Zeros overextends without the proper tools available to him.
And I love the flip here as well. We're seeing from Tarim this game, the kind of full-on pressure that Julio was able to output in Game 2 was largely unmatched by the Jormungandr, and we figured that the Achilles would do a better job of having more immediate teamfight impact in 2-0-3 compared to 0-0-1. Would agree with us here. He's now locked in. Johnny moves in front of the execute to slow down Tarim, but it's a triple stun from Worst Turtle into the destruction. Goes Kali. Now Trixtank left on an island on his own. Angry is going to try to polymorph through. It's Trixtank dashing away now, but the wrong direction from his own base. As the chase is on here. Oh, the blink away, and Argus. Not enough. Arco has found a kill onto Dazer elsewhere in this engagement. Trixtank gets the tailspin, and Spudio finally locks down Trixtank on the back end of the engagement.
They get the kill onto Johnny, and they have the opportunity to take a 4 versus 5. Just too greedy for getting the kill onto Trixtank. They're going to give up the Pyromancer for it, but they're going to take the Oni Fury in return. Not the Fury I would want at this point in the game. I'd much rather take the Primal Fury to allow myself more opportunities for this Fire Giant. Because with this Oni Fury, they're just getting the gold from it. They're not going to be able to push down any towers with the minions. Because they need to take another fight before they do so. And I don't think they're gearing up for one right now, especially with Tarim taking a tumble.
Tarim thought, I think, that the rest of Belt Slap had left and gone back to base and went over towards the blue buff. But instead now it's Belt Slap picking up a kill and the blue buff of their own to now push back up against the Snake Pit. So definitely not out of this one. The scaling's still there for Belt Slap. 21 minutes in. Still in Snake Pit's control. Large level gaps to still be made up here. But Julio has maintained that 1 level lead over Tarim kind of regardless of the team fight and maybe kill impact that the Achilles has had up to this point.
Trixtank bought a lot of time for his team there just to make sure that the ultimate prize of the Fire Giant was not taken by Snake Pit. Belt Slap afforded a lifeline there by their support, as they still find themselves within touching distance of the gold lead. Maybe not so much the kill lead, but they won't care so long as they do find themselves with the ultimate victory at the very end of the game. Arco Force uses beads, dashing into a rough situation, and that airstrike ultimate. Worst Turtle must be licking his lips at this point as he sees a free target in that Jingwei.
That's right, and kind of the check back in with Worst Turtle here did obviously go a little bit more ability-based damage straight off the bat, but then Hasten Katana Kinsai's is very nice as far as auto-attacking goes for him. So getting in, doing some initial burst, as you point out, AJ, and then has the ability to whittle down whatever health may remain with some of that auto-attacking presence that Worst Turtle will have online. Belt Slap not shying away from a challenge, though. It's the attempted pluck from Trixtank, but Angry able to beads and walk away.
Oh, but that's unfortunate. He's had to use his beads to survive that pluck. Zeros, we've seen him time and time again just go for this play where he transforms invisible, and goes on to Angry, looking for him specifically to take this Hera out of the fight completely at the very beginning of them. And now that he doesn't have beads, he's going to be very susceptible to the stun. In fact, the blink play comes out from Trixtank, and look who is on.
That's big damage in the backline of the Snake Pit here as Zeros will finally strike a kill here in this game. Worst Turtle able to limp away from this engagement thanks to his ultimate. So a victory here for the Belt Slap. Not off-put by being at a gold deficit here. Quite the opposite even. Belt Slap starting to push back against what the Snake Pit have built. Arkle finds his way over to the solo lane, is going to push down that minion wave. Terim is going to try to close this gap here. Won't be for a fight, instead just to clear out this minion wave. But map pressure, Alpha Jackal slowly creeping back towards Belt Slap despite a pretty tangible lead for the Snake Pit.
Snake Pit, for some reason, was split up far too much. I mean, Angry and Worst Turtle by themselves over on the left-hand side picking up a red buff. Meanwhile, the entirety of Belt Slap, sans Arkle, who was on this right-hand side trying to push down a tower and keeping Terim, you know, busy and occupied, were all clumped up, grouped together, and they get rewarded with a pick. It's all very good and well having the kill lead, it's all very good and well having the gold lead, but you still have to group up and make it work. And so far from the Snake Pit, even in the last fight that they won, where they took out Johnny and, you know, eventually took out Trixtank, it was split in a 2-3 situation. They need to be grouped as a 5-man unit to make their lead work, or to have made their lead work, because now the gold lead's in Belt Slap's favor.
Yeah, right. In the moments we're talking about how Belt Slap are controlling the map despite being behind, they just bring control right back for themselves despite what was a 2,000 gold lead for the Snake Pit earlier on. These individual picks have really bit Snake Pit as Belt Slap continue to put pressure forward. No 17-minute Fire Giant here in this one. Both teams realizing Fury about a minute away here, starting to position themselves over by this FG. A small fight now would likely spell a Fire Giant one way or another. Maybe it's Worst Turtle has the beads, won't use them here. Instead, it's the leap away. Kali down to half HP. Trixtank starting to consistently find some of these pluck engagements.
Just wants to try and force relics, wants to try and force ultimates. Worst Turtle, good discipline, not using either right there. His position advantage still goes the way of Belt Slap, but Snake Pit pushing in further thanks to a bit of space controlled by Dazer. And he's not one to shy away from stunning engagements as well with those hammers, but it's not the same as the Sobek block. They're still standing where they're standing, just stunned rather than flung back into the sky.
That's right. I was wondering, you know, how concerned Belt Slap might be with kind of consistent lockdown engagement here in this game, especially if Trixtank is going to get Fields of Love effectively every time he walks himself forward. But 3 blinks from Belt Slap, Julio, Johnny, and Trixtank all with one. Fantastic at closing that gap and just doing damage once you're there in the backline. Julio on the Sun Wukong turned around an earlier fight in this game, second highest damage in the game. Arkle swinging for top so far, so this Jingwei pick certainly paying off, and looks like a Pyromancer's going to go Belt Slap's way.
Yeah, they took him off the Ram. He looked extremely good on the Ram in the last game, and then they give him, well, Jingwei. And all of a sudden, he's still looking extremely good. He's still looking extremely comfortable on this pick. Although he did overstep his welcome once, and Spudio put him down for good for it with that solo kill. Still sitting at 402 is that Cupid. The only person in the game not to have died yet is Spudio. And I think if Belt Slap are able to take him out in one of these fights, they're going to find it much easier to create space for themselves and run through the rest of the backline. His presence alone is just proving too detrimental for them with those Fields of Love.
Arkle, Johnny, and Trixtank able to do more damage to Worst Turtle, and Worst Turtle turned around. Terim being looked at, plucked right back in. It's a big Fields of Love. Locks down 4 members of Belt Slap, and Johnny is going to have to walk away from the back end of this fight, but the kiting from Arkle enough to stay alive. He's going to dash away off to the side as well. Worst Turtle blinks in onto the Jingwei. Aegis used here, but it's not going to save Arkle's life much longer. Angry gets that one. It's a double kill suddenly for the Hera as Zeros makes it to the Snake Pit turn back towards the Fire Giant.
Huge commitment onto Terim, just unable to pick up this soul lane, and they pay the price for it. Spudio, we were just talking about him and how effective the Fields of Love were going to be. 4-man Fields of Love slices the fight completely in half. Arkle stuck on the wrong end of it, gets taken out first. Zero's left bit dead. Man. And Snake Pit, 28 minutes into the game, find themselves with the Fire Giant. 2 kills onto Angry, but all set up by Spudio.
Right, I mean, as of right now, so 28 minutes in, the map is completely even as far as towers, Phoenixes, all that sort of fun stuff goes. So this is a big moment now for the Snake Pit to really regain control after Belt Slap were able to wrestle it away from them. The engagement has just been so consistent, or excuse me, was more consistent there in that previous fight from the Snake Pit, able to get in onto those 2 priority targets almost immediately. Zeros and Arkle, obviously ideal scenario there for the Snake Pit to take out. Now it's 5 members strong with this Fire Giant. Primal Fury gonna lock down some extra gold now for the Snake Pit. And this is, you know, an interesting, I think, gut check for Belt Slap, seeing how much they sell out for these tier 2 towers, or if maybe Phoenix line defense is really the name of the game.
I could see them defending on the towers just because it's Belt Slap and they have this aura of invincibility about them that they might want to flex, but the correct decision and the level-headedness should put them to defending on the Phoenixes instead, especially when they're not in position, as they are right now, to defend on this tier 2 on the left-hand side. Tier 2 falls down. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, Worst Turtle making short work of the minions to help them push into the tier 2 in mid, although it looks like it may just be a continuation here of a 4-1 split.
Yeah, the one-on-one kind of engagements that we foreshadowed between Johnny and Worst Turtle likely coming to fruition here shortly, as Worst Turtle's going to be alone with Johnny there in the mid lane. The Worst Turtle rotates his way over. Johnny, small step out here. Was hoping we'd see a small damage indicator, both of them full build and have the ability to delete one another. Both have the exact same actives, both of them no beats available for a second. Blink there, Worst Turtle slightly worse off there, but the bubble is popped off of Johnny, so now susceptible to a stun maybe here in the future. Trix tank is going to get locked down, but no full-on engagement yet for the Snake Pit.
A bit of a return fire there from Johnny as he damages Worst Turtle, who's trying to run away. But I think Worst Turtle was looking for the Magi's Blessing before he's going for any form of engagement. Leaves away from yet another bit of poke there from the Ao Kuang. That's going to heal up just a slight bit thanks to that Fire Giant. Taking away, Bill left-hand side, the fight has started with a blink in from the Trix tank.
Trix tank's being looked at here. Fields of Love separates this engagement, but into the back line goes Zeros, and he's done so much damage to Angry. The shielding keeps this Hera alive. Spudio taken low. Zeros retransforms back into the Morrigan and gets the kill on the back end. Terim will snag the second of the fight for the Snake Pit, and now it's a killing spree for Angry. Worst Turtle has lost the one-on-one to Johnny, and the Ao Kuang may have kept this game alive for Belt Slap.
But they got the all-important target. They managed to kill Spudio, which means that even though they lost 3 members themselves, this Phoenix is going to stand. The mid-Phoenix is going to stand. And it could have been so different had Johnny lost that 1v1 to Worst Turtle, but he manages to find it in the end. Even through the Destruction Ultimate, even with Johnny expending his own ultimate and not getting an execute, he wins that all-important Battle of Wits.
And Toxic Blade now for Worst Turtle. Maybe helps out in future engagements. The Ring of Hecate Typhon's Fang is definitely strong there for this Ao Kuang. He's going to be doing plenty of damage to you and then healing himself right back up while it's happening. This is something we saw Julio look for in Game 1 as well. This how did the Nemean line, a couple block stacks now. Of course, some of the utility behind it changed on how you get those stacks. That's still an item that you're not surprised to see valued.
I think it's extremely valuable, especially if you're the Sun Wukong and you're going up against the Kali, going against the Spudio on this Cupid. You might just be a bit burned by Dazer going into his transformation and immediately removing those stacks, because don't forget, each take of his breath does count as a basic attack, so it quickly makes work of those stacks. That's why he's considered one of the best matchups in Tacumba as well. But it's also helpful for Zeros, who's continuing to transform into this Sun Wukong, because it gives him even more survivability while he's diving the backline.
That's a great point there, Alpha Jackal and Belt Slap. Going to push their way out towards this Fire Giant here. It's going to be enhanced in the next 20 seconds when it respawns. Lots of auto attackers. You pointed it out there for the Snake Pit. I mean, a lot of what Worst Turtle's looking to do. Spudio there as well. So you have the one upgraded shell on Trix tank, so that'll provide a little extra blockability for the Belt Slap squad, but not much more outside of that in the hide of the Nemean Lion here. Dazer has maybe proven that Fafnir is okay as far as finding some engagements. The stun has been good, but really that coerce, I think, has been paying off in dividends here with the aforementioned auto-attacking. So a good game, maybe all things considered, for Dazer here on this Fafnir. Bubble not pop from Worst Turtle. Half HP on the Faf, so he'll jump away and receive some healing.
And that's probably one of the big reasons why Data does end up picking up this Fafnir. It's just that extra safety that it brings. You can leap away from the engagements should he get plucked in. Worse settled, eating a bit of damage from Johnny there. But Data can also transform to even make himself immune for a bit longer.
Right.
Because he don't have any cripples on the side of Belt Slap, he can continue to just leap away even further. Don't forget, when you go into the Dragon transformation, that leap from his underhand tactic goes further.
Dazer has consistently been first through the door. Not surprising, given his tankiness. Julio is going to eat a little bit of damage there. It's kind of it's sort of an interesting game, I think, Trixtank and Dazer are playing here. Julio, though, this time is the one maybe looking for the engagement, eats half of his HP for breakfast, as Angry will clap the hands forward and do a good bit there. It's just the clone down. Trixtank still deep in the front line of Belt Slap here. Johnny and Tarim doing battle elsewhere on the map. Julio taken low, taken down, but Zeros gets the kill over onto Spudio. As one Wukong gets traded out for another, so healing up in the Somersault Cloud, the jump away. Johnny ends up finally grabbing the kill onto Tarim. No other way that one goes. But it's been interesting, this decision-making, Alpha Jackal. These one-on-ones off to the side have been going Johnny's way, but it's kept maybe your most important character out of the rest of the team fight.
I don't really agree with his decision to chase out that kill. You're right. It's a solo laner that's kind of difficult to deal with. You kind of want to kill him while you can, but the rest of the team sort of needs you. Yes, you get the advantage to the 2v1. He could have got so much more had he was there for the rest of the fight. Now, Fire Giant, on the other hand, could be the reward here, as they're looking to just fake out, bait out. Zero's still looking aggressive. Trixtank finally starts up this objective, but all the meanwhile, the rest of the Snake Pit have re-emerged from the base, full health and with some new items.
Julio just now upgrades his teleport, so he'll be able to join this fight quickly if need be. Trixtank runs himself away. Teleport used by Julio, but slowed down on the FG or Belt Slap. This Trixtank takes a little bit more damage than maybe he was bargaining for. Realizing now that Belt Slap have brought this game right back towards even, they're going to slow play this one and make sure they're not giving up too much, really, one way or another. The walk forward here from Trixtank has been good as far as finding some plucks backwards, but Dazer's usually been the one body blocking a lot of that engagement, so Belt Slap have had to find sort of that dive elsewhere, maybe.
There's something strange about Spudio's build. Tell me when you see it.
I do see a Bulwark of Hope, which is,
there it is.
Maybe slightly off there on the Cupid there, Alpha Jackal.
So the Bulwark of Hope obviously has been reworked a bit recently to proc at a bit higher health threshold rather than a bit lower. So it's a bit more of an effective item here, and it does make a lot of sense when you're considering it's been Johnny and Zeros have been diving into the backline. That extra bit of magical defense, an extra bit of health shielding, plus the extra health that it does give, means that he is a lot more difficult to deal with this item, rather than if he went for another lifesteal item like an Astra.
Johnny hovering far in the back line here of the Snake Pit. I don't know if they are fully aware of where this Ao Kuang is. This might be the first full-on 5v5 we get. Spudio, Trixtank weaves his way in onto that Cupid, forces out the beads, and now the dash away as well. But Julio right there on the chase. Argus drops down, but Tarim is in the back line dealing with Zeros. This fight is all split up, but Johnny is doing so much damage that he's able to lock down the Cupid, who can no longer beads out that ultimate. Angry gets knocked up here, off to the side of the fight goes one, but Arkle's still alive, free casting in the damage. The Snake Pit have lost two, the jump in, the triple stun from Morse Turtle, maybe to save the game, save their chances here. In the Phase 3 finals, Tarim finds the kill onto Johnny, and Arkle has to run away.
3 for 2 trade in favor of the Snake Pit. Julio, Trixtank, and Arkle, well, sorry, 2 for 2, sorry, as Arkle was almost killed. A TKO there, as other casters do like to say. I agree with that. It's a technical knockout on the Arkle, but he's going to be able to rapidly reincarnate back here. So 3 versus 3 remains the aim of the game, but I think that Snake Pit come out a lot better on that. Yes, they lose 2 highly important members in Angry and Spudio, but they do take out Johnny and Zeros. 2 thorns in their side. Arkle, the only real big damaging threat available. If you have a look at the Snake Pit, they've got themselves a Kali still.
They sure do. And Terrorim, I think, on top of the Kali, has been fantastic this game. 6-2 and 7. I mean, look at even just that previous engagement. The Achilles just kind of sat in the back line of Belt Slap and made zeros a non-factor. Both of the actives had to be burned off of effectively everyone in the game. Zero's absolutely no exception to that one. Beads, Aegis both used, and Terrorim a big reason for it. Though we're marching our way right back towards another one of these Fire Giant dances here, Alpha Jackal, and we wondered if maybe that Ao Kuang flank around the backside would be the big difference maker. But there was enough of a counter flank, I suppose, from the Snake Pit to make it a bit of a non-factor.
Johnny was so close to getting the kill onto Worst Turtle as well. Unfortunately, just steps a bit too far closer to the tower. And there's Terrorim helping his jungler out to get him out of a bad situation. Johnny not going to eat the Heart Bomb. Does eat the stun from Dazer initially. Even if he did eat the Heart Bomb and he took that damage, he was going to be able to heal up A-OK. He's got that Typhon's Fang online. He's got himself the Ring of Akate to give himself even more lifesteal. So no big deal if he takes a bit of damage early on.
I think Trixtank has had a really tough time kind of deciding how he wants to play some of these fights. We've seen, you know, we've kind of sung the praises of the lockdown potential of the Fields of Love and how it turns some of the fights around in favor of the Snake Pit, and I think it's been a large part of the mitigation we've seen from Trixtank. He's now found a half-health HP Dazer, but it's an immediate Fields of Love answered back by Spudio. Off to the side he goes. Who else in the back line but Terrorim? Arkle stunned it down. Worst Turtle gets the kill. Julio will trade out with one of his own. Dazer being looked at by 4 members of Belt Slap, but the Fafnir can leap himself away. Lurking beneath now is Trixtank. He's going to find some damage onto Angry, but he eats a stun and maybe a polymorph on the back end. Argus has been saved. This is the best look at a fight now for the Snake Pit as Julio is going to get damaged on down. Who finishes off the kill here? Well, it might just be Worst Turtle. Instead, it's a double kill for Angry. 2 members of Belt Slap left alive. The Snake Pit might just run this one down the right-hand side.
This could be game. We could be seeing a game number 4 here from Snake Pit as they show Belt Slap that they aren't here to be run over like they were yesterday. They're here to play. They're here to win. And what better way of doing it than just diving on and killing members of Belt Slap one by one, not even aiming for the Fire Giant, just going straight for this Phoenix. Johnny and Trixtank, the last 2 members alive, and one of them is who you want to try and help defend, which is this Ao Kuang. How much work can he do? Worst Turtle's nearly dead in the backline, forced to use that destruction early. This is a good look though for Belt Slap on this defense.
Polymorph forward from Angry this time, so Belt Slapper able to push out against the Snake Pit here. Trixtank taken down to half HP. Be careful, you can't overstay here, Trixtank. Arkle, though, still left alive. Terrorim plucked right back in. Arkle finishes off the kill onto Terrorim. Maybe I'm thinking that Belt Slapper overstaying, but instead it's the Snake Pit who have maybe hung around just a little bit too long. Dazer slowly but surely being taken down here. If he's able to leap away, which he won't get the chance to do, Belt Slap have kept this game alive.
I mean, I was going to say that's a bit of a waste of transformation, but by the time he respawns, he'll have that ability back up. So just buying himself a couple more seconds, buying the team another couple seconds. I rescind the "that's a waste" comment and say that was a good use of ultimate there.
Hey, being able to change the mindset in hindsight is definitely an important piece of casting ability to have, that's for sure. It's now a Oni Fury being taken down by the Snake Pit, but an answer back over on the Fire Giant. I mean, this is definitely, or maybe not worthwhile. If you're the Snake Pit, you get the Oni Fury, but Belt Slap get themselves a free FG. That said, maybe no real Fire Giant contest potential for the Snake Pit with still 2 members dead, so maybe getting the Oni Fury is really your only route to mitigate some of that objective control from Belt Slap.
Oh, well, as you can see, with backdoor protections removed, the 2 tanks can make their way into the tower and take it down as if they're, damage-dealing ADCs. Tier 2 tower on the right-hand side falls. That's going to expose the bird that was almost taken out by Snake Pit, just on the reverse side. Mid-tier 2 and left-hand tier 2, the only 2 towers still standing, 42 minutes, in fact, 43 minutes into the game. But Belt Slap with this Fire Giant have put themselves in a commanding position. It's just going to take one fight, though, and it could be back in Snake Pit's favor once again.
Worst Turtle is going to have to do battle with Johnny once more. I mean, the Kali has absolutely reached that late game pivot point, and you look towards a little bit earlier when we wondered how the 1v1 engagements would go, and Johnny had won a couple of them, but Worst Turtle still in a position where you can really turn some of these fights around onto Johnny if he overextends himself now up to this point. I mean, we are dead even as far as the gold, XP, all that sort of stuff. Maybe some boots need to come offline, but 43 minutes in, double the length of game number 2 and then some. Johnny being looked at here by Dazer, but the Fafnir is not going to follow up much more than that. Belt Slap slowly but surely working their way in towards the Phoenixes.
Fafnir leaping in there onto Johnny, just looking for that disarm to proc that Magi's Blessing. So there's a bit more of a window of opportunity to kill this Ao Kuang and stunlock him as he goes in. Good beads there from Spunio to stop the tail whip from Trix Tank, but that's exactly what he wanted.
Argus drops down onto Arco here. Terem has found the opening kill. Julio, he's left alone with 3 members of the Snake Pit looking at him. Somersault Cloud has to be used. And then the disengage. The bird form gets him out of range, but Worst Turtle, he has something to say about it. The blink in, the jump down, the lockdown onto Julio as Worst Turtle finds himself on a killing spree. Belt Slap, they have to retreat.
They know exactly where Johnny is. They pinged him out. He's in Viz. Worst Turtle still looking. They found him still, and they're going to go straight ahead and try and get down this Ao Kuang rather than rushing down the mid lane. I'd like to see them just go, ooh. I like that play. I really like that play. Instead of going for the kill, just get rid of the Magi's Blessing. Meanwhile, Zeros, he recognizes that the Phoenix is still low. He's going to take that down himself. So, not all bad for Belt Slap.
Yeah, but the long lane didn't really have minions anyway for the Snake Pit here. Now you've left a 2v4, 2v5, 2v4 rather, as Terem has gone back, but this is still a numbers engagement for the Snake Pit here. Mid lane Phoenix drops down. Worst Turtle is going to force the actives out of Zeros, but it's a pluck back over for a little extra peel. The Snake Pit, they're walking their way onto the Titan here. You might not even need to win the fight by the kills. You may just be able to end the game in the Snake Pit. Take down Belt Slap and push us on to game number 4.
45-minute just constant beat down there from both teams, pulling back and forth. The Snake Pit, they looked extremely good in this game. It was almost as if game 1 was a wake-up call for them, exactly what they needed to do, and they had a light bulb pop in their head. Oh, this is what we need to do. This is how we're going to win. And they just go straight for it, and they take the game away from Belt Slap. Very impressive stuff.
It is not often you see that, Alpha Jacko, and I mean Belt Slap even losing a single game. So this has got to be some rejuvenation now for the Snake Pit, here to play in the Phase 3 Circuit Playoff Finals. Game number 4 right around the corner. We'll be right back after this break.
Well, Snake Pit didn't come to the finals to get run over. Taking care of Belt Slap here in our third game, which means we got a fourth game here in the cards. I don't know, the way things are looking, I wasn't so sure about it, but Snake Pit absolutely proved it. I still got Lermy with me here on the desk, and Lermy looking much better here this time around. Very impressive what Snake Pit were able to do. Like we were seeing from Angry, like we were seeing from Tarum, and I also don't really like what we were seeing from Belt Slap.
Yeah, it was like a totally different team. Snake Pit kind of turned on the gas there, and honestly,
Yeah.
I couldn't even believe that Angry played Hera the game before, because this was just different. This Hera hit different than the one before, and not even to mention that basically everyone on the Snake Pit went positive except for Dazer, but that's what you expect from your support. He was giving his life to make sure that everybody else was getting the farm, getting the damage. I mean, just look at that, 33.5k from Angry, and right behind him there with a little bit less was Worst Turtle.
Yeah, no one ever even able to come close to what Arkle was doing, but it just didn't seem to matter this game. For me, this was all about Angry and Tarum. I don't even think Worst Turtle was quite as impressive as I would have expected, though he did do a good job, I think, buying a lot of time for the squad, but man, were they doing work here. This Hera was able to get right in the thick of the fight, move around with that mobility, drop Argus for maximum damage, and get off multiple rotations of skills. Tarum also had an excellent game. He saved Worst Turtle in one of their key fights near Fire, where they got closer to the Tier 2 on the right-hand side as well. Snake Pit really stepped up here this game. I think the draft helped them a lot. I do also think that some was left to be desired by Zero's Morrigan play, but before I beat up on Belt Slap, I want to make sure we sing the praises of Snake Pit for that game.
Absolutely. This was not an expected win from them, and they absolutely earned it. And I just kind of want to go back a little bit to what went wrong there with the draft from Belt Slap. You know, we talked a little bit about how this Wukong had some effectiveness, but I just really felt like it didn't do a whole lot come the late game. I don't know if it was because they were just very discombobulated and they weren't really playing together in their draft, but I mean, when you've got a Wukong on your team, you really have to play around that cat stun, the ox knockup, whatever you have, because otherwise the Wukong's kind of just sitting there throwing the cudgel and staying alive, which I guess is good and all, but it couldn't win them the game.
This is what I am more used to seeing from Wukong. You've actually had some great games from him the last couple of weeks, but this is much more like the Wukong I've come to know, and I agree, it was not particularly impressive. We are ready, though, to move to those picks and bans for game number 4. Some last thoughts. I mean, I do want Zeros to keep playing the Morrigan, but I don't know if we saw the ideal transformation targets from him either. A lot of turning into the Wukong. I had a chance to talk to Alpha Jackal real quick during the break, and he said he would have liked to see a lot more of the Cupid or Hera from him to try and give them some of that engage that was working for Belt Slap. I totally am okay with them playing it again. Best Morrigan out there is Zeros for my money, but we do want to see a better game than what we saw there.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think turning into the Wukong did give some survivability, but when it came to being aggressive, it just wasn't there from Zeros, and honestly, it's just time to move on to these picks and bans, because the bans, I mean, they're the same as ever. What else are you going to ban here? You've got to keep Persephone away from basically everyone in this game, and especially because Angry had such a killer set on it earlier today, you got to make sure that that one's not happening.
Yeah, I like that. Take that one away. I wonder if we'll see some adjustments from Belt Slap, because Snake Pit showed us what they had, right? They made some great adjustments to what Belt Slap started off with. So now I think it's their turn. Maybe look towards Angry here. That was pretty good what he was doing from the Hera. Maybe want to try and keep that away from him. I wonder if they do want to try and look at this Cupid. That has been a very contested pick throughout the SEC in general and these playoffs too. So I wonder if that's something Belt Slap will go to. They have been top picking this Jing Wei, but remember, Spudio soloed him earlier on the Jing Wei in that last game. Angry soloed Zeros in that game. You got to make some adjustments if your star players are out there getting bopped in lane on their own.
Yeah, the question here was banning away the Amaterasu or the Ao Kuang, and they ended up going with the Kuangers, so I guess here Belt Slap say, alright Julio, you slapped on it in game number 2, give him the Ama. If I'm them, that's just easiest game plan in the books, is lock in that Ama and make it happen.
Now Snake Pit, though, get to come back around to their side and start to look at what they would like to take. You mentioned that the Ama already taken Cthulhu out of there, and no one's really looked towards any of these main ADCs either throughout all of this, so I'm thinking things like the Cupid, thinking things like maybe the Sobek. That's been a contested pick between these two teams as well. Any of those could be up near the top here, but Snake Pit want to go for this ROM. I am a little surprised because Spudio has looked better of the Cupid for my money than this ROM, but you know that Beltzap really want the Jingwei for Urkel, but if this is what Snake Pit want, it's the best hunter in the game. I will not complain about them taking this at the top.
Yeah, and you know, Rom has a pretty decent matchup up into Cupid as well. Of course, it really does start to get crippled out in the Field of Love, but you just go on up in Astral Barrage and you're safe for a little bit longer. This Fafnir pick here is really interesting because this opens up a lot of possibilities for what Worst Turtle wants to go for, and I'm expecting something like a Bakasura or something auto attack based, because otherwise I don't think they run back the Fafnir. I think you have to go something that has attack speed, or you go for something else here. Even Yamoja, who is still available, by the way, if Beltzap wants to pick it up here.
I mean, for some reason, they haven't seemed particularly in love with it, but you know I'm a huge fan. I'm right there with you on that one, Wormy. And you know I also am not a huge fan of this Fafnir, but it did work for Snake Pit last game. I don't know that it was particularly impressive on its own. I think there was a lot of help around it, but if Snake Pit like having that in their comp as part of the whole, and even if it doesn't always make the flashy plays, it's helping and they know it, then I'm right there with them to take it. But to come back over towards Beltzap, this is the first big change. Zeros looks to be going to this Merlin instead of the Morrigan. How do you like that pick for him?
It's a decent strategy. I think that Merlin can do a really great job of burning up Argus, which is what I think that was the game plan. They thought, you know, Hera is probably selection here for Angry because he had such a killer game last time. So this time it's all about being able to get rid of that big automaton because he goes nuts when he gets put onto the battleground. So they want some way to deal with it, and this is definitely a way to do it.
And I think Merlin is still strong. Maybe you don't want to grab him quite as early as you used to when Merlin was it for mid lane. You want him or bust. But nowadays, I think you can get away with taking him where they did. Still gets plenty of value out of that fire stance as well. Lots of versatility for this pick. And for Snake Pit, nothing I can say is a better argument for Hera than what Angry did last game. I'll step out of his way and let the man continue to work after what he did there for him. So now we can take a look at some of these bans. As you mentioned, the Yamoja is still out there. Snake Pit elect to ban the Ganesh and the Camazotz. They already have the Fafnir, so I doubt they're looking to pick it. It might slide its way back around here to Beltzap in the later rounds.
It definitely could, but I love this Achilles ban up against Terrarim, and the Wukong ban, I guess, is just for safety, because otherwise, I mean, he's just going to be able to run away from you pretty easily, so that's my assumption on that one. I don't think it's particularly good in terms of offense, but defensively, it is pretty nice. But the Chalk cover, oh no, I don't know if I like this one at all. I genuinely cannot see a reason why Chalk would work out here.
This is EU Finals, right, against Beltzap, right? I mean, let's try to make the case. Chalk is better now with the knock-up straight up, has great sustain in lane, and the silence can be strong, especially against someone like Merlin. I don't know. I obviously don't love it. I'm with you, Lermy, but maybe it makes some sense here in this draft.
I mean, they've got something planned, right? You don't just pick Chalk to pick Chalk. If you are going to play this character, there is absolutely one thing that you are focusing on, and my guess is this big AoE silence. They want to play around that and maybe try and pick out this Merlin or Sobek or make some big rotations with the God of the Rain earlier, because otherwise he's going to be in trouble getting into the late game.
Ao Kuang, Kali, Camazotz, all banned away from Johnny, Nemesis as well. So he elects to come down to this Bakasura. Still some of the more traditional jungle picks like Unbots and Thor we've been mentioning really all weekend long being passed over here. The Bakasura gives him great late game hyper carry potential. The Cripple could potentially be strong if they're trying to isolate the Fafnir maybe, or the Rom. The Zawilish could get punished by it too, but I mean, again, can't give him credit for that. It hadn't been picked just yet, so interesting to see how this Bakasura might work.
I like this pick a lot more. I think Awilix is kind of a very even matchup into Baka, whereas Robin is an absolutely winning matchup. You're able to overhead kick that CC immunity that the Bakasura has, and then give yourself the ability to just jump on in on all of those minions. If you use that ultimate on them, the minions are basically dead, and it's just the Baka left there. So I think that this is a very good choice, especially up into all of the CC that they've gotten, especially Nyama.
Gives them some early game presence as well, right? With this Robin, potentially a chance for Worst Turtle to kind of dictate how these first 10 minutes of the game might go, while Bakasura kind of would like to keep his head down and farm during that time. Hera, we talked about it, maybe not the premier matchup for an early jungler, but can certainly hold her own with Polymorph. I like the way Snake Pit are coming out of here. Which way are you leaning, Lermy, now to see both the drafts?
I mean, the chalk is really throwing a wrench in things. I think just because of that, I have to go for Belt Slap. I mean, they've got Amaterasu, right? Think of it another way around. If Ama was on Snake Pit's draft, I'm there for it, but it's not happening this time.
Yeah, the Ama is a pretty big note in favor of Belt Slap. This one looking more competitive, perhaps, than we expected. EU Finals, getting it back down to Dave and Alpha Jackal.
Always impressive when a team is able to take a game off of Belt Slap, Alpha Jackal, but now the Snake Pit have to do it 2 more times in a row in order to not only stay alive, but win the whole thing. So Belt Slap definitely playing with house money here moving into game number 4, and have to be very confident, I think, in the draft that they've put together for themselves over on the Belt Slap side.
I love this Belt Slap draft a lot. They've got the Amaterasu back in the hands of Julio. Zeros is on something that's a lot less difficult to make mistakes on, I would say, with the Merlin rather than the Morrigan. You can obviously do the wrong transformation at the wrong time. Trickstank again on the Sobek had an excellent performance. Arkell on something safe. But when your tournament life is on the line, when you are scraping the bottom of the barrel of strategies to come up with something that could potentially work against a team that's been relatively undefeated, you pick Chuck.
Let's go! We're not happy about it? We're not excited about Tarim on the chalk?
Let's just say it can do its work. It does, help with the 3-second silence against the opponents of Belt Slap. I'm just not super thrilled by the pick, to say the least.
Well, and maybe we felt the same way about the Fafnir, and Dazer ended up putting an okay performance together on it, so found some value there. Definitely the auto attackers of the Snake Pit happier off for it. So for the first time in now the 3 games we've broadcasted of this set, of course the first one, game in hand for Belt Slap coming in from the higher bracket. Trickstank won't grab first blood like 1 minute into the game, so that's a win for Snake Pit already here. How about this? The engage forward from Worst Turtle blinks on in. It's going to force Zeros back. Definitely susceptible in the early game is Zeros on this Merlin. Flicker obviously nice at disengage, but it's not a huge gap closer or a huge distancer. So has to be careful here for maybe returned presence. Johnny's just sort of going to walk in, clear some waves, and walk himself back out.
He knows he's going to lose the wave clear. Just going to walk up there, eat him, and get as much damage off as possible, and then walk away. One of the big reasons why Bakasura is so dominant in this jungle meta is the fact that he is able to, well, Zeros has such a speeds and run away from that one, and Johnny's going to keep up the chase. Going to try and turn it back onto Worst Turtle with those Butcher Blades. And able to get enough damage off to get the kill. That's decent poke, though.
Okay, leaps out. Both Worst Turtle and Johnny left very low on the end of this one. The real change in that one is Angry. Still full health. Dazer taken low. The body blocks, though, from Spudio enough to keep his support alive. Trickstank and Arkell did right off the bat fall 1 level behind, but have since really pushed the script in the opposite direction. Not as much counter pressure from the Snake Pit that we've seen in previous long lane matchups here.
No, and honestly, I thought it was going to be, okay, they die 10 seconds before minions spawn, they die 10 seconds before a minute, and then it's going to be 10 seconds before 2 minutes. Just continue that progression of surviving a bit longer but still dying, but they're going to keep their heads above the water, keep it still 0-0 for a bit longer, as you did say. They are going to forfeit this purple buff, thanks to the pressure coming out from Trickstank and Arkell. So far, so good for the Snake Pit. 400 gold down, but it could be a lot worse given what's happened in previous games.
Yeah, and I think, the desk hit the nail on the head there, Alpha Jackal, talking about some of the differences in the jungle picks, where Johnny, of course, can make an impact here early in the game. Most of it is going to be in the late game, where he's going to be doing a lot of his damage. But on the opposite end, maybe a lot of the Snake Pit's early pressure here is going to hinge on Worst Turtle on this Robin. Absolutely a strong pick, in the opening moments of the game.
Yeah, we saw him play it in the last set as well. 12 kills total for his team in that game, and he was involved in all 12 of them, with 6 being kills, 6 being assists. He's no stranger to this Robin, one of the few players that's actually still playing the pick down here in the SEC, and even in the SPL, it doesn't really seem to be taken up too much. So just that bit of unknown factor maybe coming into things a bit, where teams just don't expect the amount of damage that Wursthirtle does with this pick.
Yeah, and I think overall, you know, it's a very strong draft for the Snake Pit, and they've stuck with a lot of what worked for them in their win in game number 3. You know, Angry on the hair, I think, was fantastic in slowing down a lot of the engagement there. Dazer with the Coerce is going to be good. But then at the same time, they haven't. They've moved away from Terrorim on the Achilles, doing a lot of that damage. Spudio, massive on the Cupid, and locking down a lot of the fights there for the Snake Pit. They're missing some of that big utility, and now they're missing their lives. Arkle soars up and over Spudio. It's first blood 4 minutes in, so a little bit longer. It might be second blood as well. Arkle just a couple auto attacks away, and Trixtank will get it done. Nonetheless, lurking in the waters, buys itself some value there. Johnny has to leap away. He likely gets taken down here unless he's able to heal and walk around the corner. Johnny stays alive. Belt Slap off to a 2-0 start, and might be 3 as Terrorim taken low by Julio.
The minions body blocked the chase potential from Terrorim, and Wursthirtle and Julio going to pay for that dive with his life. Wursthirtle does finally get Snake Pit on the board, but there should have been 2 there as Johnny escapes with the minimum amount of health.
I suppose it was only a matter of time, Alpha Jackal, before Trixtank and Arkle found not only a kill, but 2 over there on the long lane. Snake Pit have just not, you know, despite a Game 3 win for the Snake Pit, in the 2 games, or in Game 2 and in Game 3, the Snake Pit just hasn't had an answer. And now here in Game 4, for the Sobek and the Jingwei, that engage has just been too consistent. The lockdown just too far ahead for Belt Slap. And now you got to play extra safe, kill and an assist in hand for both of the members there in the duo lane.
And it wasn't a fight that they really wanted to take, but they were forced into it with a beautiful gank from Trixtank, blinking in and disrupting with the tail whip, forcing it back closer to Arkle's. Good positioning and good use of the blink from Trixtank. And it was 2 level 5s versus level 4s. It was the perfect opportunity, perfect time for him to go in for the kills and get rewarded with the double kill. Don't get the beads from Spudio, and obviously Dazer still has his blink, was put into combat straight away, so couldn't use that relic. Though Snake Pit still have the safety of their relics being up from that failed fight.
Arkle now in a perfect position to start to swing this game out of the left-hand side of the map. You know, top damage earlier on than you would expect most hunters to be in our previous couple of games here so far. So absolutely thrilled with the way this one has started, or Belt Slap, or anyone who's fans of the Belt Slap squad. You pointed out some good damage turned around, but it is a 2-level lead that Spudio is fighting his way into. So now maybe more than ever, it's less about playing safe, or too safe over there on the long lane. Maybe now it's time for Wursthirtle to make his way in for some of that early game pressure, especially if Trixtank is going to be playing this type of aggressive.
But in order for him to be successful on these ganks, they have to try and force out Arkle to use one of his safety options in either the beats or the ultimate. Otherwise, it's just too difficult for him to get over and really affect the fight the way he wants to. He's still going to come over anyway, considering the purple buff is being looked at, and maybe with Arkle being this far pushed up, there is an opportunity for them to do so.
Ultimate used this time. Still beads on the back end. Wursthirtle plucked right back through the disengage. Too clean from Belt Slap. Julio, he's found a kill with the help of Johnny over in the solo lane. Belt Slap pulling themselves a little bit further ahead here. And Amaterasu, very scary once it gets going as well.
Terrorim electing to not go into defense, but instead go straight into offense. That's either going to be a Transcendence or it's going to be a Heartseeker. One of the 2 items builds off from that. It has to be a Transcendence here, just for the extra amount of MP5, the extra amount of mana.
Yeah, right.
Don't forget your heal will also scale a bit with mana, with your power. I don't know if this is the play, though. You have to build some damage on Chuck, though, just otherwise he does basically nothing in the late game. So maybe building it now to get it online a bit earlier and try and dominate the lane a bit more. But you're giving up your defense, you're giving up your boxing potential to get this item online early.
Yeah, I suppose that's what Chalk does, is damage, I guess. And he has a nice silence as well, so, you know, you lose the Fields of Love, but then you get a decent range silence out of that Chalk. Arkle was free and clear to just sort of walk at Spudio here. If he had the airstrike, maybe he would have gone further in and looked for the kill there, but instead the 2-level gap is just going to grow the old-fashioned way as Arkle is able to hang in lane a little bit longer. This is the widest lead Beltslap have had this early on so far here in the set, and that's really the frightening thing. It's not that the Snake Pit have just lost a couple of kills, you know, they're only 2 down, but it's the fact that Beltslap this early are pulling far away for what time in the game we were at, especially when we figured the Snake Pit might have the ability to be the first ones to swing early on in this game.
Trickstein going to eat about half his health in terms of damage, but that's about it, and it is frightening, especially in the dual lane side of things. A full 2-level lead for Arkle, maybe even a bit more, considering it was level 10 for the most part, while Spudio was level 7. But Johnny going to get caught up by Dazer. I don't think he's going to be too worried by that hammer, as the rest of the teams do look to try and form around him. Dazer going to be the ire of the engagement here.
Oh, and Trickstein gets the damage turned around on him by Worst Turtle. Terum has slowed down this fight. It was a good silence to lock a couple members of Beltslap in there. Johnny half HP trying to sidestep here. Dazzling offensive, not enough to find the stun. Worst Turtle times the overhead kick perfectly there to grab his 3rd kill of the game. The early pressure now starting to flow through the jungle for the Snake Pit. Julio likely able to walk away from this one. The last time I said that, I was completely wrong. This time, at least I'm batting 50% on it this time around. Worst Turtle, right when we call his name, he steps up to bat.
That was a good opportunity for a fight there from Beltslap. They engage on the right target on Dazer, only sitting at level 6, take him out quite early, quite quickly. But the Regurgitate wasn't placed perfectly from Johnny, so Dazer was allowed to leap over that wall. And from that point on, Worst Turtle comes in, cleans house, gets himself 2 kills. Could have very easily had the 3rd onto Julio as well. Was unable to chase even further, and well, that could help make Beltslap just a bit more angry, and when they're angry, they look to play aggressive.
And I think we were able to see a little bit of the value out of that chalk here as well. In the solo lane engagement, I mean, there was a double knock-up, a good silence out that really saved some time, saved the life there of a couple members of the Snake Pit, so absolutely here in the early. Terum has made the pick look good. 3 assists on all 3 of the kills that the Snake Pit have brought to the table. The early game lead, though, I think, for the Beltslap, of course, as we've mentioned, over here in the long lane. So I'm maybe surprised that there hasn't been more pressure kind of put around this side of the map, outside of just continually pushing Spudio back to base, looking maybe for an early Gold Fury or something of the like. Dazer's going to catch too much damage. There's a nice
how much?
As well. That was hefty. As Dazer again is going to have to go back. It's sort of a juggle happening here in the long lane. Dazer is alone, takes too much damage, has to leave. Now Spudio's alone and has to walk all the way back. It's a very difficult situation to be in.
This has to be a tower here. The Dazer's not coming back over to the dual lane. Instead going to walk up to the mid lane, and that's maybe where Snake Pit are looking to get a foothold of themselves into the game. But they're going to have to be careful with when they choose to engage here in the mid lane, because with the pressure that Arkle has, he has the ability to rotate over towards this mid lane very easily, more so than Spudio, and just affect the fight instantly.
It's always funny watching Bakasura just one-shot a Harpy. I'll gladly gobble that one up, make myself a little bit more potent in fights to come later on. Here's a rotation from Worst Turtle over to the long side of the map. 3 kills in his back pocket, killing spree for the Robin. Not enough, though, to really engage onto Arkle. The safety net's still there for that Jingwei. Though I do like the mindset, maybe, of the Snake Pit, trying to eye some pressure on the largest gap so far here.
Just put more and more pressure into this duel until the straw breaks the camel's back, so to speak, and all of a sudden Arkle is too much of a monster to deal with. And then they can start looking to pressure onto this Gold Fury. And I'm honestly with you there, Dawson. I'm surprised that they haven't looked to have done so earlier in the game. They have the Merlin, one of the best objective burners in the game. Arkle's quite far ahead on this Jingwei. Maybe sans Pen, and that's probably why they're not looking for this objective yet.
Yeah, need a little bit more wind-up time maybe to fully feel comfortable for Zeros to be able to heavily assist in melting down some of those priority targets. It's a rotation now near Worst Turtle. This would be a numbers disadvantage for Beltslap should a full fight engage here. Instead, Johnny's going to team up with Julio, walk over towards Terum, who's going to make his way back beneath the Tier 2 tower. So just kind of passive XP gain / loss has been in Julio's favor this time, building up a 1-level lead over his counterpart there in the Chalk. That's a double pull-in from Zeros, and then the pull right on back is Dazer is going to get taken low. Spudio's been left alone with Arkle. Another 1v1 here. Out of the long lane, up to the skies, goes Spudio. The snipes are going to be good for some damage. Arkle has to use the Aegis, but times it perfectly. Down goes Spudio, and Arkle gets revenge for game 3.
Oh, Spudio hit that final snipe. There was a potential for him to get the kill instead. Belt Slap take the solo kill. They take the Pyromancer. They take good damage in the mid lane as well. It's all gone from bad to worse here for the Snake Pit in the blink of an eye as the lead doubles for Belt Slap. And what's even better for the members of the Belt Slap boys is that they can go over here to this left-hand side now with all that extra gold, ward up for this Gold Fury, and put themselves in a commanding position to take it.
That's right, and especially if you're at a point in the game now where Julio's going to be doing this, fully pushing back Terrorim, and maybe even diving in, is going to be Johnny here, beads down, or immuned out, rather, as a lot of the silence and the disruption that Terrorim was looking to do there. And he'll end up falling down again as Julio gets the kill. And this is the threat that the lead Julio has built up brings, is that this Amaterasu can now start to rotate in and make an impact outside of just that solo lane.
One of the things which Julio was able to do successfully last game, even though they did end up losing it, was be that impactful solo lane. He usually pretty much always is, and if Belt Slap do find themselves on the receiving end of a bit of a loss to begin the game with, he's there as their ace in the hole. And just consistently manages to get pressure in the lane, consistently manages to rotate over it, and affect the game in a positive light. And the Wukong, he was doing so with basically just some damage and survivability, but this time with the Amaterasu, brings kill potential on top of that, will also just completely negate Spudio on this ROM. He's got that Frostbound Hammer online, has that Berserker Shield to give himself a bit more attack speed should he fall below a certain amount of threshold. He's not going to let Spudio do anything this game, or Angry if he gets onto the mid laner instead.
Right, so and I think that's a pretty good indicator of a change of mindset and pick bans here for Belt Slap, realizing that some of that consistent aggressive engage was maybe missing in game number 3, so why not bring it here in game 4? And sort of walking back an earlier point I made, maybe the opposite for the Snake Pit, in that they don't have that consistent walk at you engage maybe outside of the Robin, and maybe Chalk can find something further on, but maybe not as comfortable with the team fight as they would have been with their same comp from game number 3. Transformation, Dazer looking towards Zeros, who will have to flicker away from this one. So kind of counter to what we figured would be happening. It's the Snake Pit driving pressure here on the left side of the map, but the counter rotation is here. Julio has made his way over. Argus is going to say nothing about this one, and Julio grabs his 3rd kill of the game, and Dazer will end up falling. Amaterasu driving the backline of this fight. Spudio forced into the ultimate. Julio backpedaling his way here. Terrorim will end up going down, save a miracle leap away, and Angry is going to turn around 1 kill now for the Snake Pit, a 2-for-1 trade, but Belt Slap may be looking for more.
Oh, Trixtank finds he threads his way through that needle and manages to get Angry's beads. That's going to open up the Gold Fury here for the members of Belt Slap, and Julio, once he did fall, he did his job, unable to get to the second block there is Trixtank onto Angry, but they're still looking aggressive. Instead of looking at the objective, look at more fights. That could be detrimental to them.
He gets used now by Arkle, and that's going to leave him susceptible to re-engage now by Worst Turtle. Make no mistake, though Belt Slap are driving the pace in the direction of this game, Worst Turtle has the potential to effectively delete any of the squishy members here on Belt Slap. That's a 4-0-1 Robin 18 minutes into this game. So that's really where this game flows through, I think, if you're the Snake Pit.
They're down 5,000 gold, but that fight was a big boon for them. Yes, they end up losing the original fight, but if Gold Fury doesn't go down, Belt Slap look over-aggressive on that left-hand side once more, and they managed to pick up a kill of their own onto Arkle, one of the big problem childs that they had to deal with. And now Trixtank gonna eat a bit of poke himself.
That's right, he will be able to stay alive this time, one of the many good-natured pieces that Sobek brings to the puzzle that is Belt Slap's composition. Gold Fury sort of just being looked at here by Worst Turtle, but Belt Slap steal it away. I think that's Zeros from range. bad to worse now for the Snake Pit boys. They're going to have to make their way fully back to safety. You thought you snuck one over on Belt Slap there, but Zeros had a different frame of mind.
I could tell that was going to happen the second everyone disengaged from him, apart from Worst Turtle, I think was the only one that's keeping it available. Spuddio was forced to use his ult to try and secure it from a Gold Fury that they originally pulled. It's a miscommunication there from the Snake Pit of the highest magnitude.
And now Belt Slap in a position where, if they weren't before, they can break this game open with one engagement. Maybe it's here onto Dazer. The leap away, but immediately into the tail whip. Julio has loved the Shogun's Kusari on the Amaterasu up to this point for good reason. It's going to just make the rest of the squad better around him. It's Pyromancer locked down here as well, and the Snake Pit, I don't know if the Snake Pit really can do anything else except what we're seeing them do here, Alpha Jackal. They kind of have to back off given where this game is. It's a 20-minute Fire Giant. Maybe Tarim walks his way in and steals it away, but surely not this time. Belt Slap are going to get the FG taken down. Julio picks up the kill onto Tarim as well. Angry left lurking away, and underneath the ground goes Trix Tank looking for the knock-up and the damage onto Angry. Half HP. Era being whittled away by Belt Slap here, stunned down onto Julio, so Dazer now just trying to peel out for his mid laner. And Zeros likely finishes off with the kill here, and Julio might get one onto Angry as well.
Yeah, just relentless is Julio's assault onto Angry. He's found a target on his back and just went, I'm killing you. No matter if it takes me 5 minutes or 5 hours, I will chase you down to the ends of the earth. And finally cleans him up. 5-2-0 reads Julio slash line. The Phoenix's slash line reads 1 death.
Yeah, 1 down now for Snake Pit, but it's going to get a whole lot worse if it ever gets better. This is a Belt Slap team refocused, maybe after the Game 3 woes, and this is about as Belt Slap of a first 20 minutes of a game as you get here. Julio, a dominant comeback performance now on this Amaterasu. It was the Shoguns that we were mentioning just before, and that one fight, Gold or Fire Giant, all that fun stuff locked down is enough to then go back to base and fully complete a sledge on the back end. This Amaterasu is going to be near unkillable, especially with the way Julio has been trying to play it.
Yeah, it's the perfect build here for Julio. Has that Shoguns, as you were alluding to help Johnny and Arkle do more damage to the objectives. Speaking of Johnny, he's eating people for fun.
Yeah, this is bad news bears for Spuddio. Arkle, little side eye there to Johnny, take the kill away, even though Johnny did 99% of the damage in that fight. But really, as lighthearted as that is, this is maybe very rough waters for the Snake Pit now. You're 5v4 for the next 30 or so seconds. Belt Slap have 5 members still at the Fire Giant. Julio gets taken low, so maybe that's the saving grace for this defense. Trix Tank ends up finding a pluck back onto Tarim. Dazer just for a moment able to transform, but a Fafnir is just going to chill right on the other end of it, and Arkle reads the situation perfectly with Zeros as well. Left side Phoenix taken quite low. Julio is healed up, stayed alive, moves himself back into the engagement. Arkle knocks down Tarim. Angry left retreating. Belt Slap, they look to break the base open, and they will be your Phase 3 champions.
Phase 1 champions after a 3-1 victory. Phase 2 champions after a 3-0 victory. Phase 3 champions after another 3-1 victory. Belt Slap continue their domination and get the 3-peat here in the SEC.
Yeah, it really only seemed like that was the only way for this one to go, didn't it, for Belt Slap? It's a 49-minute game number 3. They lose. And then you look at that draft, and it really seemed like there was no other way for this one to go. Maybe admire some of the creativity there for the Snake Pit, but ultimately I don't think that's a draft for Belt Slap that gets denied.
No, I think the second they locked in Amaterasu, I was thinking, well, this is going to be game, because you're giving it to Julio, who's just consistently performs week in, week out, giving him the best solo laner in the game, and when he's able to fight 4 people in the previous game on a Wukong and still live, and does it again on the Amaterasu, it's curtains for you. Yeah,
but you know, we got Chalk. Except that doesn't work out at all here. Belt Slap, your Phase 3 champions over here in Europe. So much fun here on the European side of things. Still half a day to go. We got to crown our North American champions as well. But before we get there, we'll go back to the desk to break down the set.
Thank you, Dave. You're exactly right. Belt Slap stand victorious as your European Smite Circuit Playoffs champs 3 times in a row. Very impressive, but really, who is surprised? They are the bar. Everyone else is just trying to reach. Lermy's still here with me on the desk. Let's talk a little bit about how Belt Slap got to this point, because they come into this last game with Julio playing the Amaterasu. They come in with Arkle on this Jingwei, and they each body in their lanes. It's not particularly close. What did you see here in this one that impressed you for Belt Slap, and where did you see maybe the stumbles for Snake Pit?
Yeah, gosh, I mean, it's hard to say because, I mean, we talked about it in Picks and Bans, right? The chalk was not it, man. I don't know what the game plan was, because clearly there was one, right? He went the Transcendence into Sledge with Ninja Tabi, and I'm like, I get you, man. I know what you're trying to do, but it's not going to work here. Not in the house of Belt Slap, because, as AJ said, this is a three-peat. These guys have not lost a championship yet this season, and there is clearly a reason why.
Yeah, I think Zeros had a great idea with the swap over to the Merlin. He looked more comfortable there in mid. Arkle getting the better of Spudio in their matchups, finding a solo kill over there, getting off to an early lead, never giving that up. Some attention showed by Johnny over there with Julio and Solo. They bullied Terrarum. Even when Turtle came over, they got a return kill. It was not closing the gap in terms of their effectiveness in fights. Belt Slap are the kind of team, man, if you give them a small lead, if they're ahead of you, if they know they can start pushing the envelope a little bit, they are not going to slow down. That's exactly what we saw here. I mean, even that Gold Fury fight where you and I were watching thinking, okay, this one must belong to Snake Pit, right? And then Zeros rotates around the bottom and steals it away. It just kind of felt inevitable.
Yeah, I was watching the Argus tank and I was like, there's no way this gets stolen. There's no way they're still just going to have this lead while all of Belt Slap is walking through. But for some reason, that's exactly what happened. And man, from that point onward, as soon as Julio makes these rotations, he is a beast. I think in the end there, he actually was like zoning 4 people by the middle Phoenix, and everybody else was pushing down that left-hand side, and then all of a sudden they realized, oh, we should probably defend this, huh? And then they have to take the very long way around, which just leads them into a corner, and that was it.
It really was, man. Julio made a big difference here in this game. All of Belt Slap playing very well throughout this set. We didn't even get much chance to talk about what a great set Trix Tank had here as well, as he's always at the center of things that go well for this squad. And then we still have to make sure that we're giving some congrats to Snake Pit. Look at the journey they had to take through this EU playoffs bracket, where they end up taking the matchup against Poppies, and they drop to Belt Slap, beat them again 2-0, improve from the 2-1 they had earlier on, but couldn't quite take care of Belt Slap. They even improved there, finding a win against Belt Slap, so clearly getting better throughout the tournament, but just could not quite catch up to the EU standard that everyone else has struggled with. So we saw Snake Pit end up falling to Belt Slap there, but we still have North America to resolve. We still have to find out who the best of the best is over there, though I think we all have some ideas. Baskin and the boys await the rest of North America in the finals.
Hey man, it was close before, up against GTT in the last playoff, so maybe they show up again, but like you said, they have to go up against Hype Unit, and they are not ones to just fall over and take it, so by all means, please stick around. This next match is going to be insane.
It's a great point. No guarantee who's going to be in the finals there alongside Basket the boys. Those Hype Unit guys have come in hungry and ready to play, so do not go anywhere. Quick break. We'll be right back with the North American Circuit Playoffs.